English translation. 31st Contact. Part 1. Thursday, 17th of July, 1975, 10:14. Ars.
Today is your big day.
After all that you have told me, I have already thought this to myself as well.
You must be having thoughts, that is to be expected. But also this time I must warn you that you will have to keep silence over certain things. At a later date, however, I may give you the permission to write about all that you have seen and experienced. So I will leave out of the transmission of the reports all that cannot be spoken about yet. But now come, first we will do another trip through your sun system.
We head to the ship and let ourselves be lifted by the transport beam. After a few seconds, the ship is already hovering high. And from an altitude of about 50 meters, I take some photos of the surroundings of the ship's departure point below. I take some straight from above and others at an angle. I take them through the still open transport beam hatch while we slowly rise. After I finish, Simyase closes the hatch, and within seconds the ship shoots up several kilometers higher, without me being able to feel any acceleration or other external forces. It's just as if I was standing on solid ground somewhere on Earth. Also, several sudden changes of direction cause no effect. Even if through the ship's window, I can see that we often shoot in different directions, like a crazy giant pendulum.
We are now leaving the Earth's gravitational field.
Where are we to go to now?
First to Venus, where you may already use your camera.
What about Venusians? Can one photograph them?
You must be joking because I already told you explicitly that this planet carries no human life forms.
I know. I just wanted to see what you would say.
I understand you refer to certain claims of alleged contactees.
Exactly.
Your lines of thought are often very difficult to detect. But now take a look at this equipment here, which we have developed specifically to provide you with better photographic possibilities. You can simply put your camera against this screen and take photos of the outside. As you see, you can also look through this transparent material and see the outside, just as if it was a simple glass window. The device next to it, however, generates multiple radiations, which make visible or simply preserve the existing color shades, etc., of the objects so that they may be captured on film. In this manner, you will be able to produce good color photos, or so we hope. From our side, we have another camera, which is very similar to yours. If you give me a film, I can help you with this second camera.
Of course. But I am surprised, because as you already told me once, you use a completely different technique to create photographic images. But now you suddenly come with a matching camera.
Laughs quietly. The camera is a product of your technology, and it was acquired by one of us.
You surprise me. You must have gone into our villages or cities then.
Is that so strange?
I always see you in your suits, and with these clothes neither you nor any of yours could step into the eyes of the dear Earth humans.
Sure, but we also have clothes of your type. We need these because we move amongst you here and there, naturally shielded from swinging waves, so that we won't be harmed by the swinging waves of the Earth humans. However, we can only do this for a short period each time.
That doesn't really surprise me, but why don't you go out with me sometime then?
We can reach an agreement about that sometime.
That was quick. However, we have the so-called police, who often for whatever whim will check on people. How will it be if someone asks for your identity papers?
You have many questions, but don't worry about it. We don't have identity papers of your kind, because we don't need such things in that form. Should it happen, however, that we get asked for such documents, then we are able to adjust this by influencing thoughts. This adjusting takes place through the power of our thoughts, by which a mock appearance is created for the concerned questioner, and information from actual persons of your world is simulated for him or her. An eventual police officer, etc., would thereby get the impression that he or she had some documents in hand, etc., and that he or she was verifying them.
That is deceit, Simyase.
No, it deals only with the creation of a hallucination, if you want to call it that.
I understand, so let's leave that.
The flight to Venus does not take very long, so I have just enough time to examine in more detail the equipment for making the photos. The viewing screen looks to me like clear glass, through which everything outside can be observed. I only notice that this whole viewing screen has a very fine resolution, similar to a photographic print. The size of the screen is about 50 x 50 centimeters to 20, while the color radiation device is installed on the side of it and recessed, so I could not examine its inner workings. Beside this device, there is also an oscillograph and many different kinds of apparatuses all around the cockpit room, installed within a circular control console and on the walls. All this strange-looking equipment, already seen on the first flight, is obviously used for the guidance and control of the beam ship, while also serving as exploration devices, distance meters, radiation control devices, and other such things, all playing important roles in the operation of the flight machine. All the display screens, except the oscillograph, however, differ fundamentally from all other apparatuses of Earth origin I have ever seen of similar type, whereby all the appearing forms, symbols, and figures on these screens are expressed in beautiful and often fantastic colors, and also extraordinarily vividly. Unlike the Earth displays that I know, which in practice are only able to display flat, two-dimensional images lacking depth, these screens show everything in vivid, three-dimensional realism, like they are physically real and not just a technically generated image. As we approach Venus, I have to tear myself away from my considerations because Simyase begins talking.
Now you can take some pictures of Venus's cloud strata. Then I will show you the surface of the planet itself. Unfortunately, I can only do so via the viewing screens and window ports. The special viewing screen for photography will have to be closed because of the high temperatures of this planet. This screen is better able to resist extreme cold than such great heat. But don't be disappointed by the appearance of this world. The planet is in a stage of early development of primitive life.
You have already mentioned this, so I am not disappointed.
Sure, but there are still some things here about which you will have to maintain silence.
Of course.
I quickly shoot the allowed pictures, then the beam ship dives away from its position and rushes towards Venus. Immensely dense masses of clouds suddenly surround us, and of the most greatly varied colors. This cloud cover is unbelievably deep, many kilometers, and there seems to be no end as we sink down through it to reach the surface of the planet. But finally we have penetrated far enough, and the clouds change density and open up. There, at nearly 40 kilometers height, we leave the last cloud formations, and I see the surface of Venus on two different screens, which supposedly and according to what has always been claimed, should be extremely volcanic. The landscape sure looks rugged, however, it's not littered with craters. And though it's probably of volcanic origin, it's only partially traversed by half height, wrinkled as well as diversely shaped mountains and plains. On one side, I see a huge area without mountains, which also isn't full of craters, as it is assumed by the Earth humans. Simyase now points out a polar region, noting that the mountains don't extend that far.
Almost everything is bare and lifeless, Simyase. However, it does not look to me like a second moon, like many human beings on Earth constantly claim it is.
Sure, I have explained that before.
But what is that down there beside the small meteor crater?
An exploration probe from your Earth.
I see. And how would it be if you would spin around the planet 2 or 3 times, so that I can see other regions as well as the night side?
Sure, I also intended to do that.
Thanks.
Simyase now sets the ship to fast speed, and we go round Venus a number of times. Unfortunately, certain observations made here cannot be mentioned. However, it must be stated with absolute clarity that Venus is not home to any human life forms.
The next goal is Mercury, and then the larger planets which you have already seen once before. However, several of the things which you will see next, you must not mention to anyone else.
All right, you know that I will correspond to your wishes.
According to my wristwatch, we fly until about 1630 HRs to several planets of the SOL system, where once again, I am able to shoot photos, but unfortunately only from a greater distance. Close-ups or photos of details are not permitted by Simyase. She gives no further justifications for this. During the whole time, a number of very important things are discussed, about which, unfortunately, the only thing that can be said is that the possibility of the existence of human life forms on other planets of the Sol system was considered. This, in particular, because it has often been said and written in books that such life forms would have, or have had, contacts with Earth humans, or with some of us. Such claims were mostly made about life forms from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Mars. So, I am especially interested in these planets and ask Simyase about the possibility of visiting them and making observations on them. She kindly agrees and lets me very closely observe, examine, and check these planets, as well as their moons, from only a few kilometers above their surfaces. But even with extreme enlargements of the images on the screens, or by getting closer to the surface, not the slightest trace of those alleged life forms is discovered, which would be located on these planets, and with whom we Earth humans would be maintaining contacts. On all of these planets, which may only partially be called planets, because not all of them are real planets, there are no such life forms that would be responsible for the alleged inspirations, telepathic outpourings, etc., directed to Earth humans. The existing life forms are of an entirely different nature from that of humans, and in their low existence, they are also completely uninterested on the humans of the Earth. As an exception to this stand the several existing stations of extraterrestrial intelligences which exhibit human forms. But these intelligences or life forms are not native to this planet, but only stationed there for certain tasks. So-called human races or civilizations in the usual human sense or in spiritual form do not exist. When at 16:30 Herschers we are back over the Earth, I can see several flying objects in free space. Besides 2 satellites of Earth origin, I can also see 5 objects which with certainty are extraterrestrial spaceships. This is confirmed by Simyase when I ask her about it. Only one of the 5 ships belongs to her people, whereas the other 4 spaceships belong to other races, who are here to watch the Apollo-Soyuz joining. Oddly, I cannot discern those objects through the ship's windows or the viewing screen of the photography device, but only on the beamship's image screens. Simyase explains to me that all the ships are masked from view and can only be detected through the special zero visibility screens. The zero visibility screens, she explains, use a special vision device that is able to capture and reproduce images of all that the naked eye and primitive monitoring devices, such as radars, cannot see or detect. I content myself with this explanation as Simyase does not want to go into more detail, and so I now turn my attention to a newly appearing object on the horizon, high above the Earth. Invisible to all human eyes and beyond every possibility of detection by technical devices of earthly origin, we quickly approach the new object and fly beside it at only a short distance. It's the Soyuz, which will soon be linked with the Apollo capsule. I recognize quite clearly the letters CCCP painted on the rear, in large letters. I know that in this capsule are 2 living Russian humans, and oddly touched by it, I therefore turn to Simyase.
This whole thing seems crazy to me. Inside this small gondola live 2 human beings.
It's true the capsules are very small and really offer no living space. I know it causes you fear to think that you could be there inside. You have good reasons to feel that way.
You are speaking in riddles, Simyase.
In time, you will understand my words, but do you want to look inside the capsule?
How would that be possible? The crazy thing is totally closed and made airtight.
You don't know the possibilities of our technology, which allow us to distort all matter by radiation so that it becomes invisible to the eye. We are able to do this in a very controlled manner and can thus steer the effect very precisely.
Then let me see your magical technique.
Simyase busies herself with some instruments while spellbound by the photography view screen that was specially built for me. I look out in the direction of the Soyuz capsule. Suddenly, a part of the capsule simply disappears. And terrified, I look at the two human beings who rest lying within the seats, which look like deck chairs or something similar. Involuntarily, I cry out to Simyase.
Simyase, there.
Do not be afraid, because nothing will happen to them. For them, the capsule is still the same as before, because it has only become transparent to sight for us.
But that is nothing more than a metallic flying coffin, Simyase. The men are so very squeezed inside this box. And how could this thing have been shot up here, as everything is just downright primitive? Just look at these interiors and all their equipment. It's really primitive.
Do not worry, because nothing is really happening to these people. They will also very safely get back to the Earth again. You may be correct in saying that everything is primitive, but remember that you Earth humans are only at the beginning of space exploration, so in this regard, you are still in your infancy, so to speak. Because of that, your technology still cannot be very high or very well developed.
That may be true, but when I look at your ship, then...
You cannot make a fair comparison here because with our technology, we are 3,500 years of development ahead of yours. From your technical standpoint, however, this primitive capsule and its equipment, etc., represent a very high and advanced technology. So you should not be unfair since the development difference between you and us are too great.
Yes, indeed, but this flying metal coffin...
Do not worry about it, as you still are not able to solve the tension within your own thoughts, which trace far back to a past life.
You are making me crazy, because you are directing a very particular thought to me. Can it really be so, Simyase?
You have picked up the first thought, reflect on it, and find the remaining solution on your own. We had to do that too, to uncover some bits of your mystery.
I will try to do so then, to reflect on it.
Surely you will, but look there now, that is the second capsule, and inside it are 3 humans.
Aha, the Yanks. When will the magic take place?
In a few minutes, the final maneuver will begin. Start taking the photos already, I will also help you later. After the joining of the 2 capsules, which will take place soon and very quickly, you will also be able to photograph several satellites of both terrestrial and extraterrestrial origin. After that, we will fly off and be received by our great spacer that is stationed in this system, with which we will then be taken to several other systems, galaxies, and the universal barrier, where I have to fulfill a mission. A surprise should lay in there for you as well. But now pay attention to your task.
I now watch carefully the 2 space capsules of terrestrial origin, which slowly push towards each other. I notice here that the Apollo capsule is clearly quite bigger than the Soyuz capsule. Simyase explains to me that the Apollo capsule of the Americans is bigger because attached to it is the actual linking piece, which serves as a passageway from one capsule to another after the coupling, so to speak. Then, at a later time, after the completion of all tasks and maneuvers, this linking piece should be detached from the Apollo capsule and released. I pick up my camera now and shoot several films with the help of Simyase, who is now beside me with the second camera, and also takes several shots through the image screens. As predicted by Sim Yai-se, always, the docking takes place very quickly and with very high precision. After taking the photos, Sim Yase works on her apparatuses again, and this time I can see both capsules as well as the linking piece, and naturally all the persons inside the capsules once again. I notice that the Apollo capsule does not have much more interior space than the Soyuz, and it also looks to me rather primitive and like a flying metal coffin. I notice, however, that the capsule of the Americans is much more richly instrumented than the one of the Russians. Despite my feeling of anxiety due to the coffin-like confinement in these space capsules, I must laugh now, because I have just watched how one of the floating Americans bumped his head on something and then reached for it with his hand. This should be attributed to the inexperience in weightlessness. Unfortunately, I cannot ascertain whose man this is, because I know none of the occupants of this capsule, neither by name nor from photos. Now, Simya! Sei switches off her apparatus, and the two linked capsules appear normally again.
It is about time that we move towards our meeting with the Great Spacer.
Without another word, she sets the beam ship in motion again, and already a few minutes later, the Earth has shrunk to the size of a large light object, shimmering bluish through space. Having already observed this several times before, it doesn't interest me particularly, and so I turn to Simyase, who sits in her oddly shaped conformable chair and directs the beam ship through the darkness of space, in which thousands of millions of different glittering stars of many sizes twinkle, 1,000 times clearer and more distinctly than they can be seen from the Earth. A truly fantastic image that I will never forget. This is heaven as it lives and breathes. Among the large and small stars, innumerable groups of stars can be recognized. Star clusters, spiral nebulae, the gigantic band of the Milky Way in immeasurable beauty and size, and 1,000 other things. Everything is simply fantastic, and only now do I have an idea of the immense size and magnificence of the universe. On to the first flight, and also for the previous hours, I had not observed it well enough because I was caught and dominated by many other things. But now I look at everything in peace and with clear eyes, and I cannot describe the infinite vastness and size and the splendor and beauty of this universe that stretches out before me. The words fail me. It can only be seen and understood, and I suddenly feel free and light and elevated above the struggle of everyday life on Earth, where I always feel so strange and out of place. Here, that feeling is simply gone. And everything is different in me. I feel really good and at home here. I don't know why, but it really is so. I am detached from all earthly concerns, worries, and problems. I feel free. Then Simyase interrupts my thoughts and considerations.
You are moving toward solving your puzzle much faster than I had expected. I have overheard your personal thoughts since they have been sent out so strongly. You are very quickly beginning to understand, and that is good. Now look there to the front. There is our great spacer, which will take us aboard.
At a distance difficult for me to estimate, a huge metal sphere is hanging in the darkness of space, reflecting only weakly the light of the sun. Very slowly now the speed of the beam ship decreases. Simyase is sitting very attentively before her instrument panels, steering knowingly and carefully in the direction of the huge sphere, which looks to me like a small planet. I can see way down in the lower third, a little to the left, a big gap is opening laterally, which I soon recognize as an entrance hatch. Image detail from the dome of Ta's Great Spacer. It's doubtlessly a hangar, into which we are now slowly flying. Innumerable beamships of the same type as ours are standing there in orderly rows by rank and file, and only a 100 x 100 meter square of the hangar entrance is cleared. I look back at the hangar entrance and can see how a wall is moving from bottom to top and closing the entrance. Everything all around is now brightly illuminated, and the light, which is light blue, seems to come directly from the walls. The whole hangar is huge, and this spherical ship, judging by these interior spaces, has to be gigantic. I ask Simyase for its measurements.
How big is this spaceship, Simyase?
It is big, it's even very big, and it's the largest of its type. It is a truly special ship which embodies all the technologies known to us. Altogether, it is its own perfect world, a world that's able to fly. In itself, it contains a complete and inhabited city with 141,000 inhabitants. Everything needed for living can be produced inside the ship itself, and it is absolutely independent of anything of any kind from outside its boundary. This spaceship represents our latest development and has been working together with other ones of this same kind for 4 years now in Earth's chronology. They find useful applications as self-sustained expeditionary ships and for intergalactic order-keeping. They are able to move within all times and spaces, and for them negotiating the barrier between universes is no longer an obstacle, whereby an all-universal community made of countless life forms can be included. After only 4 years in the possession of this great technology, we are regrettably still only in the early stages of our great task.
That is still fantastic. If I understood right what you have just explained, you are able, with this great ship, as well as with the others of the same type, to shift from one universe to another?
Sure, you have understood me correctly. However, this only applies to aligned universes.
Then tell me one other thing. You have once told me that you know Asket very well?
Certainly.
Please don't make me bargain for each separate answer from you. Where do you know Asket from? What do you know about her and her race? And what do you know about her connection with me?
There are no secrets. Asket has explained everything to me, so I know that you stood together in contact until about a decade ago. All details are known to me, as well as your time travels into the past, through which you were thoroughly cleansed of all the heresies of the religions which exist among you.
You are shockingly open, Simyase, considering that Asket has strictly forbidden me to speak about this before she would permit me to do so by a sign.
You have just received this sign.
You mean that the knowledge you just presented about this is the sign?
Certainly, however, you are still obliged for the next 30 days to restrain yourself from speaking about this, so that you still must maintain silence about the time travel and what you have learned. You are, however, now permitted to make public the reports you wrote in 1964 about your contacts with Asket. You have surely preserved them well?
Of course. I have just been waiting for permission to speak about it, and have preserved it all very well. But how does it actually happen that you know Asket?
After the predetermined break-off of her contacts with you in India in 1964, which were being led in collaboration with us and the High Council, she allied herself with our High Council, and from that resulted a quicker contact and a quicker cooperation. With the help of her race from the Dal universe, we came into possession of knowledge of higher technological capabilities and received the most exact data for the development of these great spaceships, which we have been using, as I said, for 4 of your Earth years now. For Asket's people, the handing over of this data was no problem because they mastered the way of overcoming distances that these ships are capable of more than 700 years ago. In Earth years, Ascot's race is about 350 years ahead of us in development regarding all technological fields. This small time interval no longer plays so decisive a role when a certain level of development is reached in every field, so it was only natural that they would assist us with these very important findings and achievements, and that they would impart with us the knowledge necessary to build these big spaceships.
Finally, I understand the connection. If you ever see Ascot, send her my dearest greetings.
Sure.
You say that so strangely and with a funny smile. Why is that?
Just so.
Once again, you have a secret to hide. Well, if you don't want to talk about it, then keep it to yourself. But I'm still interested in knowing the dimensions of this space giant. Can you at least tell me the mean diameter in meters?
Sure, as this is not a secret. By your measure, it is exactly 17,182 meters. That seems to be a lot for you.
My oh girl, I am simply gobsmacked.
Then recover yourself quickly, for you will soon see and hear many other things.
It's done already. I only had to really digest it first. That is simply fantastic. I felt as if I had spun into the ground. It is, speaking of spinning into the ground, I have heard such a strange story, and I would like to ask you for an explanation. Mr. Veit from Wiesbaden brought a letter from a certain Ella or Elsa Schroeder or something like that, in which she described a situation she had observed in Turkey some time ago. A woman was digging with a peculiar-looking power shovel for something that she took out of the ground, something that looked like a cylinder. The woman then took this cylinder with her and disappeared into a UFO, which then ascended into the sky overhead. Moreover, this young woman had spoken with the UFO woman, who told her that her name was Semjaze, Sim-Ya-Se, or something similar. Can you tell me anything about his story, whether you know about it?
Sim-Ya-Se smiling roguishly.
Sure, this event is known to me. However, it did not happen in Turkey but in Iran, near Zahedan, early one morning. I have luckily, while I was shielded from vibrations, dug out from the earth a time spiral, which was of great importance. We had been searching for it for 3 years until we finally found it. It was a time projectile for research purposes. At least that's what you would probably call it. Here, this is the projectile.
Sim-Ya-Se brings out a conical spiral-shaped device.
This is also the reason why we are going to the edge of the universe now, because this device came from another universe.
So that's what happened. And when did you dig this thing up?
In the first month of this year. But now let's leave our ship because the room is atmospherically prepared for you as well. We are in a security room, which is fully atmospherically pressurized even when gaps are open to outer space. This whole space is nevertheless sealed off from the actual living area by invisible barriers, so that security is truly comprehensive.
We let ourselves float through the shaft by the transport beam and stand on the metal floor of the Great Spacer. For the first time now since I am outside the beam ship, I realize that the cleared landing space of about 100 x 100 meters is surrounded by glass-clear walls, and that innumerable other small beam ships are beyond these walls. Between these parked ships, many human beings are rushing about, quite obviously involved with the various ships. But I also see walking mechanical figures, quite obviously robotic, which are hurrying quite busily along as well, executing various tasks. Very far beyond, I am just able to see some bigger beam ships, which have completely different shapes from the ones hitherto known to me. Sim-Ya-Se occupies herself with a small device in her hand, and I see that before us the transparent wall opens and reveals an entrance. Then, completely silently comes a small floating vehicle, not bigger in size than a Volkswagen car. It floats about 20 centimeters above the floor and is equipped with very comfortable seats on top. Sim-Ya-Se asks me to take one of the seats beside her, and the peculiar moving vehicle floats away and slowly rises higher and higher. I look back and watch how the transparent wall closes up again after our beam ship is taken by the previously seen robots into the main hangar hall. This hangar hall seems to take up the whole lower third part of the giant spaceship for its complete diameter, up to a height of about 600 to 800 meters, or 800 to 2,400 feet. The ceiling above, like the walls, also radiates a bluish light, which seems like the sky to me. And if I am not mistaken, there is a big opening above, exactly in the center of the ceiling. Soon, I can see that this is so, as we head in this direction in our floating transportation vehicle, and we climb up inside this opening. Also inside this shaft is the same gentle blue illumination coming from the walls. For minutes, we climb up with increasing speed until Simyase suddenly stops the floating vehicle and docks it into a side compartment in the wall. In here, there is an open space of approximately 2,000 x 1,000 meters, and I feel myself completely transported into a magical world. Wherever I look, I see green fields, trees, shrubs, and flowers. A real little Garden of Eden in this space giant.
This is fantastic, Simyase.
It is completely natural, as I told you, because this spaceship is its own independent little world.
It's easy for you to say, because I am seeing this for the first time and really have to find it overwhelming. But how high are we in here already?
I don't understand what you mean.
I mean, how far have we floated up inside this giant? How many meters?
Some 11,000 meters. We have stopped here near the center of the ship, which is where the actual city is located.
Man, oh man, then during this short time we have traveled with this vehicle. Higher than our tallest mountain on Earth, higher than Mount Everest.
Simyase laughing.
We have moved up very quickly. You are right about that. But concerning Mount Everest, I will have to correct you, since it is not the highest mountain on Earth.
Now you make me laugh, Simyase. Mount Everest is indeed the highest mountain on my dear Mother Earth.
My words are meant seriously, they speak of the facts. But of course you could not know this, since you are starting from a mistaken assumption. Your scientists count the elevation of land or of a mountain in meters above sea level. That is the exact mistake, for such measurements should not use sea level as the starting point. The starting point for all measurements should be from the center of the planet, which never changes. This is because planetary shapes are never exactly round, but tend more towards the elliptical. When you say that Mount Everest is the highest mountain of Earth, then this is correct only with respect to sea level. But in truth, it is around 2,150 meters lower than the highest mountain of your world. When you measure Earth mountains, then the center of the planet is decisive, and measured from there you will see the highest mountain on Earth is not Mount Everest.
I understand. Your interpretation is very evident. Therefore, one had to search for the highest mountains where by this ellipse the diameter of the Earth is enlarged. As far as I know, the only mountains that exist in that zone would be the Andes in South America. Hence, the highest mountain would be found there. Or am I mistaken?
You are very perceptive because your considerations are very precise. Do you know the mountains in the Andes?
Only very few of them. One of the highest mountains, as far as I know, is Chimborazo in Ecuador.
Surely, and by calling it, you have named the highest mountain on Earth.
Have I? Fabulous.
So it is.
What do you mean?
You said fabulous. This mountain is indeed surrounded by many myths and legends, and in earlier times has played a very important role in the activities of extraterrestrial intelligences.
I didn't mean fabulous in that way. But what are we going to do now? And how is it with taking photos here?
I regret not being able to allow that for you, now please understand. You will be able to take pictures of equipment later, but more is unfortunately not possible without permission. We will walk through the park's facilities now to another transport hub, which will lift us up into the main control center. This is located in the top of the dome of the Great Spacer. There, the leader of the ship is waiting to see you.
Great, Simyase. What position does this leader have?
In your terms, one would likely say governor or even king.
I see, so to speak, the top boss of this giant, but don't expect a genuflection from me when I stand in front of him. Such jests are not me. Not even before the good God himself would I chafe my knees.
The leader is an Ishwish.
It's all the same to me, and if he wants me to polish the ground in front of him, then he ought to do this in front of me first, please. Then I will decide whether I will trouble myself to lay my head in the dust before him, which even then I would not do. I am not eager for such kinds of salutation ceremonies. They are humiliating, slavish, and doggedly devotional.
I see that these are really your honest thoughts.
Do you think I would joke about something like this? I regard a human being as simply a human being, whether he or she is from this world or another, or whether he or she is a beggar or God in person, and whether he or she is ignorant or wise, they are all of equal value. No one has more rights than any other, and nobody is greater than anyone else. And if your dear God up there in the high dome does not like this, then he should let it go, or get old and gray from anger. To me, it is really all the same. I will neither cringe nor offer honor and devotion. If he wants to give me a hand and will shake hands, then okay. Otherwise he may poison himself with his megalomania. Perhaps I will throw some flowers at him from this beautiful garden here.
Simyase laughs loudly, loud enough to be heard throughout the park, and suddenly we hear a loud and friendly male laughter coming from the high ceiling, which then stops suddenly. I look at Simyase a bit foolishly, who splits with laughter and only slowly starts to settle down.
You are good, ha 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 ha. You are really very good, ha ha ha.
What does that mean? And what about this laughter coming down from the ceiling, which has stopped so suddenly?
Ha 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 ha, he has. Ha 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 ha. He has turned off the speaker system, but ha 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 ha. He is surely shaking with laughter up there in the cupola dome.
You mean that was the dear God of this box? Has he eavesdropped on us?
Sure. Ah ha 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 ha. This he has done, but please don't call him dear God, because this always evokes in us painful memories of the very early times of our history. We have indeed maintained the designation of Ishwish, but it has acquired a completely new meaning for us.
If that's how it is.
Thanks. It was a good joke.
I have my own opinion, and I don't think it's funny, because I meant it in earnest.
Sure. And we all honor your thought forms, but for us it was funny because you spoke so seriously and used expressions which revealed so openly all your feelings against bondage. And on the other hand, we also found it funny because you have used purely earthly forms on our world, even though we have for many thousands of years already known, as well as thought and acted in, completely different forms from the ones you just expressed. There certainly are still many subtle differences which can be perceived between ordinary persons and Ishwishes or other advanced life forms, but everything is still fundamentally aligned towards there occurring no more differences in appearance, so that each life form is equal in value to any other. But such major changes don't take only hundreds of years, but even thousands, because traditions are always firmly established in a life form, and the identified recollections fade away very slowly. Therefore, all requires its own time until the final changes can take their rightful place.
This is very understandably explained, Simyase.
Good, so let's go on now.
Slowly, we walk along narrow paths through the parks. The paths are soft and not made of metal, but rather of some kind of plastic or something similar. Here is a fantastic world of flowers, of mostly completely unknown flowers and scents. But I also see flowers, bushes, and trees exactly like the ones I know from Earth. It's simply a true paradise. We only take 20 minutes to cross the park, And then we stand again before a transportation pit with a vehicle floating in front of it, which we then use to drive up it, if I may use this term. With increasing speed, we float higher again, and suddenly the firmament lies open above us. As far as my eyes can see, over the end of the shaft, I see nothing but the infinite vastness of the universe. Stars twinkle, and I ask myself, how could we have simply floated out into space? Because we should not be able to survive up here, where there is no air. I understand things quickly, though, as we reach the end of the shaft, because at this end lies the cupola, which Sim-Yaseh had spoken of. An enormous space exists here with console-like furnishings in which apparatuses and screens are embedded. Before them are human beings and an unknown to me form of life, which I soon recognize as being biomechanical. Real biomechanical humans, androids. The whole command center is a giant domed cupola several kilometers in diameter. Over the whole thing spreads the free cosmos, and I wonder how one can still breathe. Then I remember the completely transparent walls of the hangar, and it becomes evident to me that the whole ceiling of the cupola must consist of this transparent material. So I ask Sim-Yaseh about it.
Sim-Yaseh, can you explain to me, what is this transparent material that the cupola is made of? Is it a kind of glass?
No, it is not glass nor any kind of glass. It is a very stable metal alloy like the one used on the walls of the beamship hangar.
Whoa!
Remember the Earth space capsules which you were able to look into?
You mean that everything is simply made transparent by technical means?
Sure, all the walls as well as the cupola are completely stable and made of the hardest metal. However, through the radiations, that is to say swinging waves generated by our equipment, we can make everything transparent. To the eye, it then appears just so, as if there was simply nothing there, or as if you were looking through clear glass.
Fantastic.
Come now!
And once again, we float on the vehicle towards the middle of the huge command center. I can already recognize a horseshoe-shaped structure about 100 meters high, completely covered with apparatuses and image screens, and its center is overall not bigger than an average room. A single bearded man stands inside this horseshoe, looking towards us. As Sim-Yaseh brings our means of transportation towards an encircled area about 60 meters from the horseshoe, this watching man starts to move toward us, and I can now see him more clearly. He is wearing a suit similar to that of Sim-Yaseh, and from his face one can perceive a lot of love, kindness, and friendliness. I estimate him to be about 70 to 75 years old. Now Sim-Yaseh gets out of the vehicle and hurries toward the old man, who also moves quickly towards her. Then they come together and hug each other, and if I am not mistaken, kiss each other on the cheek. I find this very human and not much different from our own earthly form of greeting. Somehow a pain I cannot describe creeps upon me. But I push the feeling away and walk slowly toward the two, who are now speaking with one another. However, I cannot understand a single word because the language is completely foreign to me. But then I come up to them and recognize a roguish smile on the face of the old man, who looks attentively at me. Sim-Yaseh speaks to me.
This is my father.
Ptah, Sim-Yaseh's father. Drawing of Ptah's self-portrait by Christian Krakowski. June 2000.
At first I am astonished. Then I put my hand out, which is seized by the man and pressed. It is a gentle but firm pressure, like that of Sim-Yaseh. I confess to being confused, or just beaten, because I would never have expected to see Sim-Yaseh's father. Then the pleasant voice of the man sounds out to me. Sim-Yaseh's father, it is a great joy for me seeing you here. Sim-Yaseh has already reported a lot to me about you. Be welcomed here with us. Once again, I'm amazed, because Sim-Yaseh's father speaks German as well as herself.
Many thanks.
I cannot say anything more because now Simya-se, his father, encloses me into his arms and welcomes me heartily. I feel slightly deranged and quite suddenly unable to speak as a confounded lump rises in my throat. The devil may know why. Simya-se seems to sense this, for she speaks once more to her father in that incomprehensible language. He then turns to me. Simya-se's father, call me Ptah, because that is my name. Possibly it has some meaning for you, as in former times it was used on the earth.
Simya, Say's father. I see you do not know the connection. An ancestor of mine was, in former times, on your earth and lived as one of your people at that time. He was Aishwish and was joined by marriage to his wife Bast. He used the same name as I, Pitash. On your earth you still have very old traditions, tales, and legends about him. Regrettably, that is not known to me, but I will search for this in our books to see if I can discover anything.
You surely will if you look at Egyptian and South American stories of gods, because therein lie many leads. For the most part, they stand in connection with events concerning Venus and other planets of your solar system.
You're funny, Simya-se. You prohibit me from speaking about these things, and then you mention them yourself.
I only explain what I am allowed to. Fundamentally, it should be known that Venus did not bring forth its own human creatures, and was also uninhabitable for humans during those times.
Now I am on slippery ground. What may I tell and what not?
We will speak about this in detail with one another later, by ourselves alone.
Okay, but what about your form of address, Simya-se? I really don't know how I should address your people. Whether by you do in German, more familiar, or you sei in German, more formal?
Ta smiling.
If I understood your terms right, then our forms are very simple. Because each life form has equal value, each is addressed in the same manner. Thus, in your terms, by you do, so call me Pa in the manner just described. But now I have a question. Do you speak any other language besides the one we are using now?
Yes, some English and Greek. Naturally also Swiss German and some Bawi.
The old Greek form of the language?
No, the new Greek.
That is very good because I have also mastered that language. We will be able to speak in this language then, and I won't need to use my translator device.
Of course you cannot know this. My father doesn't speak a word of German. What he has spoken until now was our own language. But you see the small device on his belt there? That is a language transformer, a language converter or translator, as you would call it. With this language device, we can transform one language into another and make it understandable to both. But we like very much to speak in other languages and gladly bypass these technical means when there is an opportunity.
So there it is. Again, something completely fantastic. There is only one problem with it, which is that I master neither the English nor the Greek or the Bawi perfectly. If I have to write everything down later, I will slip up.
Do not be afraid of that, because these problems will be removed in the transmission, and everything will be understandable for you letter by letter, and you will be able to write everything down correctly.
Then it is okay. I was afraid this could be a problem.
Ta is now really speaking Greek.
Come now, we are already on our way to the transmit position.
In fact, I see that outside the cupola, the star formations are slowly changing. We must be already traveling at a very high speed. I have noticed of this from inside the gigantic ship that tells me that it is moving. Now all three of us are sitting in very comfortable seats inside the horseshoe-shaped console. On the image screens, all the planets of our sun system can be seen, whereby I also see once again that Jupiter has a fine ring, similar to the rings of Saturn, but rings are also visible on planets from outside of the Sol system, as well as numerous large and small stars, nebulae, and many other things in the vast space. I am overwhelmed by how diverse and fantastic everything is. And now the constellations suddenly dart away. We must be moving through the universe at an enormous speed. I asked Ptah about it.
Ptah, how fast are we going now?
Look here. This instrument displays the velocity. You can read it very easily by yourself, even if you do not understand our script. In your understanding, these lines stand for the decimals, and these sharp arrow-headed brackets mark the hundreds. These half-height lines mark the thousands, and these point lines the 100,000s. These ring lines here would mean for you the speed of light. Now you can just add up the values, and thus you calculate the speed yourself.
Okay, one moment.
I count very carefully and reach a result of 89 units in the decimal field. Then 2 point lines that are 100,000s, and the third is only 11 values from them. From addition, this results in 289,000 tonners.
This makes 289,000 kilometers per second. Is that right, Ptah?
You think and grasp very quickly. You have counted correctly. Our terms are different, but they give equivalent values.
Fantastic.
What do you mean with that? I don't understand.
Sim-Ya-Se turns to her father and explains what I meant by fantastic. He does not seem to understand it immediately. It is funny that I know these words in the Greek language since I have never known them before. Suddenly I am simply speaking perfect Greek, and I don't understand how. So I ask,
How is it, Sim-Ya-Se, that I can suddenly speak fully fluent Greek?
My father has turned off the language translator and has instead turned on the language transformer. This device uses the ship's language computer. This converter is now continuously transforming the desired Greek language into impulses and transmitting them. Your brain then detects these impulses, and with that you can speak each desired word without knowing it beforehand.
I don't know. As always, the only thing I can say is fantastic. Girl, what do you think? How long will it take until we are this far along on Earth?
This will take several thousand years by your time reckoning.
Oh dear, that is a long time, but look out there, what is that?
through the transparent dome, I notice a very large object very far away.
That is a comet that is still unknown to you on the Earth. It follows a very long orbital path, and for that reason is still unknown to your astronomers. As it is moving towards the sun system that we just left, it will soon be discovered by the earthly astronomers. Within only a few weeks, Earth humans will be even able to see it with the naked eye as it passes by.
Then I cannot wait. But for how much longer will we be flying through the universe?
For about 30 minutes more, then we will transmit to a different remote system.
Transmit, that means among other things time travel, right?
Sure, but you already know about this.
Certainly, yes. But that was with Asket and not with such a gigantic ship. And how will it be then, when I return to Earth? We would have to go back in time now, to return to Earth at the right time. That doesn't make sense to me, because you said that you had to do something at a universe barrier. If that falls chronologically in our time, then it is no longer possible.
You are not taking some important things into consideration, because Sim-Ya-Se once explained to you the possibilities offered by our means of transportation, namely the use of hyperspace, by which space and time become paralyzed.
Oh, my dear, I think that I must be slowly growing old and dumb. I am truly stupid to not have thought of that earlier.
You should not speak like this of yourself because your sudden realization reflects an extremely large ingenuity and a highly logical combination which leaves me astonished.
Like your daughter, you throw whole gardens of flowers, Ptah.
I don't understand you?
Sim-Ya-Se talks smilingly to her father and explains to him the meaning of my speech.
You should not be so modest.
And there you go again. I just do not understand you. You are like Arahat Athersata, who always threw flowering shrubs as well.
Why?
He paints me as a great prophet, just as if I had been shoveled full of wisdom. I find that vain and inappropriate. These kind of speeches annoy me, because they really don't fit my frame. If anyone wants to work me over, then he or she can call a spade, and explain that I am no more and no less than one who just receives and passes on what is transmitted to me by you or by Arahat Athersata. I really am not a prophet at all. These sweeping speeches of Arahat Athersata in particular have already brought me up the wall somehow, and for this reason I have turned into an anti-contact with this plane for the time being. I have suppressed the voices and not written another single line from this source. I must first deliberate whether I want to continue doing this work. It is very awkward and strange for me that I should stand as a great prophet because I could never be that. If I were to continue doing this, then my fellow human beings would inevitably accuse me of deceit and megalomania, and revile me as a liar.
Let me...
Interrupts Sim Yase and turns to me apologetically.
In place of Sim Ya-se, I would like to explain these things for you, namely that as a primary factor, it is very unfortunate that you have interrupted the contact with Arahat Athersata. We had already become aware of this and tried to find out the causes, which we have not yet succeeded in doing. Sometimes you have the peculiarity of blocking your thought stream precisely at the moment when we see ourselves forced to bring anything from your knowledge. Now the reason for your blockade is clear to me, and I am able to understand. I can by no means consider it as a mistake, but on the contrary, it is a very good response. Given the concerns just expressed by you, it's clear to me that your motives are pure and good, namely that you do not want to be anything special and are convinced that you are only an ordinary human being. You are also right in this in every respect, and your thinking here corresponds exactly to the creational laws and to the thereby resulting order. You have also acted absolutely correctly. However, we made an error of omission, which is that you were not informed by us about what the true meaning of being a prophet actually is. It would have been our duty to explain this to you, because we knew about your modesty. Arahat Athersata bears absolutely no guilt because this level just transmits everything to you without you being able to ask any questions. The answering of questions is something that for the time being we alone are obliged to provide, and precisely in this respect we have missed something. So the guilt lies in us, and we will try to resolve this error. That will still take some time, and so several days will pass before Arahat Athersata reports again, for this level has surely wrapped itself in silence.
Exactly.
This could be expected since the state of things has with absolute certainty been known, and the result is now the wait until things become more orderly. At the level of our High Council, only the information about your blockage has been received, but nothing else. The facts regarding you and prophethood are that in the first place, you must recognize that your acquired knowledge in consciousness-related and spiritual matters is extraordinarily rich and extensive. At the present time, you are the only human on the earth who has, to use your terms, a phenomenal knowledge concerning the spiritual teaching as well as the spiritual laws and recommendations and the resulting wisdom. This still must partially find its cause in you having received very much knowledge and being taught about the truth by Sfath and various earthly teachers, as well as by Asket from the DAL universe. You gained the fundamental cognitions, however, through the use of the storage bank's impulses from previous lives, as well as from the trips into the past, which liberated you thoroughly and for all time from any existing heresies. On the earth, this means an undertaking which is unique to the present time. You have known and experienced this form of travel into the past, even before we, with all the means we have at our disposal, were able to do so ourselves. Only when Asket stepped into official contact with us, and through the DIL race, we acquired the knowledge and the ability to make time travel equipment, did we first manage to undertake this kind of trip. This was only 4 years ago by Earth chronology, while you had already had your time travel experience with Asket and your friend a number of years before that. This is the situation of the matter around your knowledge, which is extraordinarily great and, in this relation, finds no equal in your world. You must become aware of this and therefore raise your understanding. You should thereby not emphasize yourself particularly because of your knowledge, and you should absolutely not want to put yourself above others. That must be out of the question. It is very good that you exhibit such modesty and put it to use, but you must not be too modest, to which you are unfortunately inclined. Let it be clear to you that you have an extraordinarily vast knowledge concerning the spiritual teaching and the creational laws and recommendations, and also the resulting wisdom. And if you recognize this, then no one can or should any longer accuse you of megalomania. Such insults are uttered only by ignorant and stupid, selfish and jealous or know-it-all human life forms. It was only possible for us to establish contact with you because we knew about your knowledge and wisdom. We have indeed had contact with other Earth humans, but these were very few, and the contacts with them were just in the form of unconscious impulses. Just as you say yourselves, none of these other Earth humans are good enough to hold a candle to you. This is not boasting on my part if I put it this manner, then it is just plainly and simply the truth. And because of this, I am very glad that you nevertheless practice modesty and do not make a great fuss about yourself. But as I have said, your modesty is excessive, because you must acknowledge your development and your spiritual and consciousness-related standing. You may decline praise and expressions of gratitude, but you must recognize the facts as they are. And it was only the statement of a fact when I spoke of your extraordinarily large sagacity and of your exceptional logical skills. If Arahat Athersata designates you as a prophet, that finds its justification on the one hand in your knowledge concerning all creational spiritual matters, and in your wisdom and love, and on the other in the fact that you are the receiver of very important spiritual and groundbreaking messages from a very high spirit level. These messages are accordingly visionary and prophetic. So that is why you are called a prophet, because your pronouncements are not only prophetic, but they also serve to instruct and point the way ahead. This designation is also very justified, and it is not meant to turn you into an arrogant super-authority. Such an impression is completely wrong and unfortunately very common on the Earth. The Earth human imagines a prophet as someone mighty, a creature standing above all others. But that is not the truth, because a prophet is a life form like any other. The heresy that a prophet would have to be a powerful figure, already in early times was maintained by fanatics, charlatans, deceivers, and religious leaders, etc., for the intended purpose of strengthening their own power over the people. So take no heed of these heresies, because they are deceptive and wrong, and they give wrong ideas and impressions to which, however, you have fortunately not yielded, and about which you don't need to be corrected now. Be also aware that a prophet of the current times has to work in completely different forms from the earlier times, because they usually lived alone in wild and inaccessible regions like mountains, and only now and then did they come to the people with powerful words. These times belong to the past for a long time already on the earth, and the possibilities for the dissemination of prophetic works and their possible usage has changed fundamentally. For the prophetic labor of the current and future times, there are many technological tools available on the earth. The great majority of Earth humans dominate their language also in script, so the available possibilities for a prophet to do his work have increased greatly.
Thanks, Ptah. That was very clear and detailed, but I had not really considered these things in these terms before. But now I recognize them, and I know that you are absolutely right. I do not need to think more about it.
That?
Simyase interrupts her father.
When he says that, he really means it. He really thinks extremely quickly and is just as fast in his decisions.
That leaves me astonished.
Please let this be. Do we still have some time before the transmission?
Certainly.
Good. You spoke down there in the park about our dear Ishwish, who overheard us through the communication device. When may I see him and where? Is he perhaps preparing to come here?
As if on a secret command, Simyase and Ptah start laughing out loud again, and it takes them some time to recover. Then Simyase speaks.
You have already greeted him.
Huh?
Some seconds pass before I understand.
Oh man, am I stupid. I should have realized it by myself. The father of Simyase, Ptah, is the leader of this space giant, and Ishwish, a deer god himself, in person. Oh, that just slipped off my tongue. I really did not want to.
Please don't worry about it. I already understand it, and I don't feel included in your words. Your words are a kind of bitter humor, because you know the truth and cannot understand that your fellow humans still remain faithful and live blithely according to the old heresies.
Thanks for your understanding, Pa.
No thanks are necessary. However, you wanted to say something before I gave my interpretations regarding prophethood, if I have observed correctly.
Yes, that is right. We were talking about time travel and related things, and about this great spacer too. I would now like to ask you whether I might be right about the following assumptions. Simyase has given me an explanation about the utilization of hyperspace, as you have already mentioned. As I now conceive the matter, this utilization of hyperspace, this phenomenon that I have experienced earlier, consists of a real time travel, offering all the possibilities of past, present, and future, as well as other dimensions and spaces. Simyase had explained then that a hyperleap through endless distances only takes a split second to happen, but unfortunately, I only noticed that correctly just now. Therefore, in my estimation, it does not consist of a simple hyperspace crossing, but of a time travel, through which space and time become paralyzed, something that would certainly not happen on a normal hyperleap. For me, this results in the moment of the simultaneous point of view in simultaneous time. Space and time are thus paralyzed, taken in a literal sense. That is, they become pushed together, if I can put it like that, whereby an absolute timelessness arises, and also a spacelessness. That time and spacelessness can then get traversed with immeasurable speed in a split second, without any shifts or distortions. When Simyase uses the hyperspace with her small beam ship, it must also consist of the same principle. By that manner of using the hyperspace, it must also be possible to do a time travel also in time that stands still, through which one appears at the targeted location, right in the same second as when one disappears from the starting point. From my estimation, it does not deal with anything other than with a technologically generated dematerialization and rematerialization, when the time travel is carried out in present time. Only then can one see virtually no passing of time while everything remains free from shifts and distortions.
I have already told you that you are extremely perceptive and that you dispose of a very remarkable combination of logical skills. However, once again you generate in me feelings of astonishment. Even creatures of our race would have difficulties in finding the truth from the sparse information given by Simyase.
It was not so difficult.
It is indeed a great accomplishment. It is time now, however, to interrupt our talk for a few minutes. We have reached our point of transmission.
Ptah and Simyase turn to the instruments at the horseshoe-shaped console. Small light bodies light up, and dark picture screens come alive. Shapes that are completely strange to me appear on them, and for the first time I hear a tone now, a very faint and somewhat soothing singing like metal. I look up at the transparent dome and see that stars of all sizes go by very quickly, and now suddenly merge into a milkish white veil. This only takes a few seconds, and now they are already recognizable as bright stars again, passing by at tremendous speed. But that only lasts a few seconds as well, until they go along slowly like before. During this whole time, I feel somewhat weird, but I feel a very profound peace in me. Then I hear the voice of Simya say, "This surprises me since Ptah had asked for silence. I wonder if something had to be delayed with the transmission."
If you want, you can take some photographs here, but whether they will succeed, I cannot judge. Unfortunately, we don't know whether Earth cameras can take pictures through the dome. But we will know this after you have developed your film. If you want, we can have the equipment brought from my beam ship.
I would be thankful for the photographic gear, Simya say, because it certainly should work. But what is going on is something wrong with the transmission. Has anything failed or been damaged?
Why? Have you not noticed anything?
Yes, I have, but I am unable to explain it.
Then just look out the dome into space. What do you see there now?
I follow the instruction and am astonished.
Girl, those are completely different constellations from what I know from Earth. All constellations are completely foreign to me. Of course, I know only a few, but I see none that I can recognize. Why is that?
We have made the first hyperleap.
That man. Oh man, that is why. Where are we now then?
You are around 500 light years away from your home world. There, look up there, that cluster there behind it is my home world, that there is our Pleiades. We are at a distance of only 201 million kilometers from the nearest star. Unfortunately, we cannot get closer because we need a safe distance of 153 million kilometers in order to be able to transmit again. Perhaps you can succeed nevertheless in getting some photos with the device that has already been brought from the beam ship.
I am indeed overwhelmed.
That is understandable, because it is the first time that you experience a trip of this kind.
From somewhere, an android appears, bringing the camera. Very cleverly, it builds it into a frame and adjusts it to fit. Suddenly, the thing speaks to me, and once more I am utterly astounded, though I cannot understand a word. Simya say quickly enlightens me.
It wishes you good luck.
But that cannot be. This thing cannot think and act independently. That would be crazy.
But nevertheless it does.
That cannot be real.
It is indeed so. Its whole body is half organic and its brain biochemical organic.
I am going crazy. Am I caught in a madhouse, or have I landed in a utopian novel?
Neither one nor the other. Everything is real and very highly developed. You will understand this better after a short time, when it becomes more normal for you. It is only the novelty that makes it all seem a little strange to you. Occupy yourself with the pictures now, because the next leap is being prepared.
I follow his order and hope that the pictures come out well. I keep thinking about Ptah's words, though. He is surely correct, because with the Russian-American space capsules, the phenomenon of the suddenly transparent metal seemed very strange. While in the hangar hall and here in the control center's dome, it already seems much more familiar. And when I look at it now, it seems absolutely normal as well as absolutely familiar and natural. The same with the photographic apparatus and the whole control center here. Ptah's explanation seems right.
You are deep in thought, my friend. Watch the stars now. We will start the next jump in 9 seconds.
I do as advised, and experience it all again, like the first time. And also here, the whole process and everything seems much more familiar now. But I notice the peculiarity that for seconds I find myself again in a deep tranquility, which is much more familiar to me now than on the first time. I'm even able to analyze it somehow as something timeless, eternal. What mystery this holds, I will surely try to explore further.
We have reached our next destination. The nebulous formation you see there far ahead in space is called the Orion Nebula. By your measurements, from here to your Earth there is a distance of 1/800 light years.
Can I take photos of it?
Sure, if they will succeed for you.
Again, I start shooting photos. If they come out only reasonably well, I will be satisfied.
Our next destination is a destroyed sun. Its destruction took place about 10,000 years ago when it turned into a supernova. Today it's recognizable as a very large nebula formation, as you call them. The distance from your Earth to this nebula is 3,150 light-years by your measure, and you call this remaining formation the Crab Nebula.
Once more, the preparations for the hyperleap are taken, and this time, I will attempt to observe things other than just the overhead view. I watch Semjase and Ptah very carefully, and like the starscape before, they suddenly turn into a milky, shimmering mass. But the horseshoe-shaped console also turns into the same white mass. And like Ptah and Semjase, it also returns to a solid form after a few seconds. The impression of deep tranquility that has come over me this time is much greater than before, and I think that I have now solved the riddle. This deep tranquility and this unbelievable peacefulness flowing through me is eternity itself, the absolute timelessness, which obviously is no longer subject to outside influences, such as the restlessness, strife, and worries that trouble the consciousness. I realized suddenly that during these few seconds, I was in the eternity itself, experiencing myself as eternity, where I only exist as fine spiritual matter, and am completely free of all that can influence my material life. I actually traveled to eternity for a few seconds.
You are very deep in thought. I have had to speak to you 3 times before you noticed my voice.
I was able to grasp his thoughts and noticed that he reached an important new realization. This is astonishing to me. Even many of our own life forms only reach such insights after being in the fine material for a longer time. Your cognitive ability is of exceptionally high value and capability, dear friend. But now look out there. That is what you call the Crab Nebula.
Still lost in thought and working automatically, I take some more photos with the help of the device. I am paying attention to neither the environment nor anything else. My thoughts linger on the eternity, and I find them so large and powerful that words completely fail me. At the next leap, I want to observe myself. I want to see if I can assess something in myself. If I shimmer like the milky mass, and if I am able to realize some things about or in myself. It is.
This will surely be possible if you are paying attention. In a few seconds, we will start the next leap.
I only half hear his words because my thoughts are elsewhere. Automatically, I put my focus on myself and wonder about the fact that I suddenly cannot see my body. Once again, this takes only seconds, which I can verify by looking at my watch. And now I wonder about Ptah's words. He has captured my thoughts, and he knows exactly what I think. Apparently, I just let them run free and uncontrolled. But with my watch, it's also strange. When close to Semjase's beamship, the watch always went too fast or too slow. For some time now, that is no longer the case, and it works perfectly. But I haven't yet.
We have reached our next goal, which is 1,010 light-years away from Earth. You call the strange-looking formation there, far out in space and 200 light-years away, the Horsehead Nebula.
Because distances are no longer a difficulty for us, we can safely leap back and forth across space without having to keep a certain line. It should be unknown to you that the constellations we have already visited are very far from one another and require multiple course changes to see them. The next jump will take us to the Trifid Nebula, as it is called.
I only half hear the words spoken to me because my thoughts are still far away. A little absent-mindedly, I take a few pictures, and shortly thereafter experience again the immersion into eternity. However, I do not advance further into it, and everything is suddenly blocked. Something is simply inhibiting me from penetrating further. But what is it? Oh, of course. The time. The damn time. It must be what keeps me from plunging deeper. These few seconds are not enough. They are just enough for a lightning-fast plunge into eternity and to emerge back just as fast. It is still...
Hello. You are very far away in your thoughts, and once again you have realized something new. Everything is right with the time, but this can be changed if you are interested. The Great Leap to the Universe barrier can be altered so that the rematerialization can be delayed and the time shifted by a few minutes. For this purpose, we have to travel into the future, and the lost time cannot be recovered. In ordinary time travel into the future, the time interval would be neutralized, yet for this form of penetrating into the timelessness, other technologies are necessary. In this manner, time cannot become paralyzed. We have to live through it, and therefore to also let it go over and through us. However, there are limits set to this, so that while 5 seconds pass by your time measurements in ordinary time-space, only 1 second passes for us when penetrating into the timelessness. We can do this because we can regulate the time between dematerialization and rematerialization by modulating speed, since according to our understanding, true timelessness also prevails in the timeless. This, of course, is only relatively speaking, for this shift out of the timelessness also keeps its own time, but it is embedded into such a huge interval that we cannot fully control it. A single second of the timeless amounts to millions of years in ordinary time-space. If we were then to penetrate while standing still or with insufficient speed into the timeless, we would never be able to return to our homeworld. If we were to remain standing still for only a few seconds in the timeless, many millions of years of ordinary time would pass on Earth, which would turn into dust, while you would return into normal space only a few seconds older, though in truth, you would be thousands of millions of years older. That may all seem incomprehensible and fantastic to you, yet it is so. Even with your greatest consciousness-based efforts, you will not be able to understand the actual connections, as even for us with our development, these are still not available, and this mystery is not exactly transparent. In this respect, we too know only a few solutions to these enormous mysteries, and are therefore continuously striving for further knowledge. Though we have the technology required to travel through the universe with the help of hyperspace, and can also use timelessness as an ally, we are still at the initial stages in our related research and development. We can, however, take responsibility for giving you an incursion into the timeless, which you call the eternity, with our great spacer. To enable the desired awareness for you, we will need 7 minutes of leap time, which in normal time-space increase 5-fold. This means for you and for all of us that we need from dematerialization to rematerialization an experiential time of 7 minutes within the spaceship, while in the timeless only the 1,000 billionth fraction of a second passes, whereas in ordinary time 35 minutes elapse and everything gets older by this amount. In this special case, the course of time changes for all of us, for instead of growing older, there happens a rejuvenation of exactly 28 minutes. The mathematical calculation for this is very easy, while we are in timelessness for 7 minutes. These 7 minutes are our ordinary time to speed factor, which is also carried over into our older self as 7 minutes. However, as we spend this time in the timeless and to a great extent can be protected from its influence, thus the time effect being of 1 to 5 in ordinary space, our space is slowed down and as a result acquires the difference of 28 minutes. So for us, there is only a passage of 7 minutes, while in normal time space 35 minutes pass. Therefore then, if 35 minutes pass on your homeworld, then of course everything gets older by this time. Yet during this same interval, because of the altered time effect in reality, you only live for 7 minutes. You now have to subtract these 7 minutes from the elapsed 35 minutes on Earth to reach the result of 28 minutes that you have not aged. So during these 7 minutes, you become only 7 minutes older while everything on Earth ages by 35 minutes. In other words, this means that while 35 minutes pass, you only become older for 7 minutes, while also becoming younger by 28 minutes.
I am already slowly going crazy. I only partly understood these explanations. Yet in itself, everything is still an endless riddle to me. This situation with the time shift is evident to me, yet I am not closer to understanding the how and why of the phenomenon and its possibilities. I must calmly reflect on this first, but I am convinced that I will not understand even half of your statements. But I am here, and I would like to witness this experiment.
Then so it shall be. But first we want to head for a few special destinations. When you have finished taking your pictures here, we will jump to Ishwishmata.
My work does not take long, and then we set on a new hyperleap, where everything takes place the way I am used to. This time I look at the stars again, and now I suddenly notice a gigantic image. Surrounded by countless stars of all sizes, something like a colossal eye stares at me through the blackness of space. It must be very far away, but it is very easy to see. A gigantic eye that stares through space. This can only be the Ishwishmata, the eye of God.
It is unmistakable, is it not?
Yes, and it is gigantic.
I have already explained to you the origin and cause of this structure.
I know, it is all written down.
It is for us a symbol of evil lust, for power and domination, a symbol of hate, destruction, and human madness, that in contrast to other similar and natural formations, is the work of humans.
I know, Simyase has explained it all to me. Here in this constellation was also the original home of the first Earth human races.
Yes, that was a long time ago. For the Earth human, it is just an image in the universe called the Ring Nebula, but for us it is of very great importance. Occupy yourself now with your photographic equipment and have the next 5 minutes for yourself. We will now experience several additional leaps, and you will have about 20 seconds in between to take pictures. Just remember, however, the order of locations for when you label your pictures later. For this purpose, I will tell you the locations in your earthly designations. What you see above from here you call M57. The next destinations are M17, M16, M27, NGC 6781, NGC 7293, and NGC 7089. These last two, as seen from Earth, are in the constellation of Aquarius, the last one being roughly 47,000 light-years from Earth. Our last jump will be to the Andromeda Galaxy, which rests, as seen from Earth, at a distance of roughly 2.2 million light-years. From there, we will set up for the great leap to the universe barrier, by which we want to give you the 7 minutes opportunity to experience the timeless.
Ta turns back to his console and works on it together with Simyase. Again, I experience several hyperleaps in succession, varying constellations, and some other things. In the meantime, I continue taking photographs and marvel, while countless thoughts rush through my brain. Finally, I am now making several shots of new star formations when Simyase approaches me.
You have already made your pictures from here, and we have time again to talk. We are here in position for the Great Leap.
Are we already in the Andromeda Galaxy then?
That is what you just photographed.
Super, but what are we going to speak about? First, I would like to experience these 7 minutes of timelessness before I try to think about anything. I would prefer if we could discuss something else.
Surely.
Good. Would it not be possible for you to give me some lines written by you?
I do not understand that.
I mean, if you could write some words on a sheet of paper which I could show my group.
Why that? What purpose would it serve? I see no need for it.
Please don't be that way. All of them would enjoy it if they had something personal from you to see and hold in their hands.
Is that so important?
For some of us, yes, it surely is so.
How should I arrange it then? I don't have the necessary utensils, and besides, I do not master your writing very well. We have completely different characters ourselves.
That is not so important. I can even help you a bit with the writing. If I assist you, it should go well. You just need to ask if you have trouble with any word. But since you have spoken of your script, what does it look like? Can you show me some of it?
Sure. Look, you can see the characters of our alphabet in these letterings here.
May I copy them, and will you explain the pronunciation?
Sure.
I take the notepad from my shoulder bag and sketch these completely strange to me characters on the paper, always together with the pronunciations as Simyase explains them to me. This takes only a few minutes.
Now I have it, Simyase, but I still lack the umlauts, etc. Are there also any such pronunciation keys of this kind?
In our language, these do not exist.
Good, good. I also don't understand much about umlauts, consonants, and whatever else. Let's leave this and consider what you would like to write. You see, I have made provisions for this and brought paper and a marker with me. I thought this writing device would be best. Can you handle it?
Sure, I am only not sure of what I should write.
Oh, just anything.
That's a very broad notion.
Of course, but something will surely come to you. What if you were to simply write a short letter to our group?
That sounds good, but what should I write?
Girl, please don't be so complicated. Simply write some nice words. Words that come from you and not from me, as if I had dictated them to you.
I will try. How I shall begin, however, it is not clear to me yet.
Typical woman.
What do you mean with that?
Quite simply in the manner that you women can sometimes be rather helpless creatures when you have to do certain things that are somehow strange to you. And in that, there seems to be no difference between you and the female creatures of the earth. Until now, I had always seen and experienced that in all matters you were and still are completely different from the women of Earth, which is exactly the manner I imagined a real woman should be in her form of thinking, acting, etc., and not simply effeminate. Now I suddenly see this characteristic in you and also recognize certain things which are deeply feminine. This doesn't bother me by any means, but it shows that you are only a normal human being, a woman, who also demonstrates a certain amount of purely feminine traits. And the way I see it, it must probably be the same across the whole universe. That the femininity can probably not be denied by a single life form in the universe?
Ptah interrupts Simyase before she can answer.
You are very profound and insightful. It is as you say.
I would not want to disagree.
I make the interesting observation that Simyase's face is suddenly seized with a slight red, obviously in reaction to the words just spoken. Secretly, I am delighted by this, for now I know for certain that she is influenced by feelings, even though she has always been cleverly able to hide them. Apparently, one only had to touch the right place to make her lose control over her feelings.
Please do not.
Obviously, she has picked up my thoughts.
No offense intended, Simyase. Quite the contrary. From this observation of mine, my esteem for you as a human has increased dramatically.
It is, however, not always good to know the feelings of others.
You are indeed right with that. But do you believe that you were in a position to conceal yours from me?
I had actually thought so, but now I know that I have not succeeded. You did not let yourself be fooled,
Why should I have?
perhaps because I am a woman.
That's nonsense, Simya-se. Please let me explain that such feelings are not related to gender.
That's a very profound word of truth. 17th July 1975, dear group members. With your really unacquainted script, it troubles me to write some words after the wish of your friend and to say, trust in our words and teachings, because when they appear strange to you, they contain in themselves the deepest truth that unfortunately in all your writings since ages ago have become falsified, and in today's time and under great trouble must become newly announced. Through the existing false teachings, however, the truth appears anew and strange, and also harsh words pushes through. Yet the truth must break through, and you should all help it to victory. See that neither work nor effort brings down the cornerstones for victory. Fulfill your mission. Trust in us and our common great and wise friend, who out of all of us has the most difficult mission to fulfill. Stand by him always and give him the best possible help, as alone the burden would be too great for him. In the name of us all, I give you a great thanks, however. I thank you for your previous troubles, even if everything is not always followed exactly according to our determinations. Take the trouble in the future, however, to follow everything after precise orders, and do not trouble yourselves in thoughts that we can only have contact from our side with our mutual friend. In love, I give you my greetings. Simya-se.
Original letter. Page 1, original letter. Page 2.
Thanks, Ptah. Perhaps Simya-se might agree?
Please, let us not speak of this anymore. Come on, give me the paper and pen.
I understand what stirs Simya-se, and so I give them to her without a word, and she starts writing, without hesitation. Simya-se finishes her letter, which contains some spelling mistakes, and I have to help her a little with.
You have written everything very well, Simya-se. This makes me very pleased.
Is that so?
Of course, Simya-se. Otherwise I would not say it. Anyway, thanks a lot. But now I have one more question about your script. How old is it actually, and where does it come from?
That is very easy to explain, because these characters that we use today are only 11,000 years old. We took them over at that time from our ancestors who lived on the Earth. Our old characters were very complicated, while these now are very simple. It was developed by several of our scientists who were on the Earth at the time, who used constellations as seen from Earth as templates. They connected certain constellations with lines and obtained the characters' shapes as a result. Our script consists of small circles and lines, being that the circles represent stars and the lines just connect them.
That's interesting, and your explanation is enough for me. I am only surprised by the fact that this script is no longer known on Earth.
It has simply fallen into oblivion after it was adopted by your Earth-human ancestors and was used during a few centuries, during which, however, it was modified in many ways. Only a few of the Earth-human alphabets today have characters which trace back to ours, before they were modified and made unrecognizable.
That's amazing. So the writing was not developed and put into use by the Earth humans themselves?
If you speak of the earthbound forefathers of your human races and not of the sons of heaven, then you are correct. because the script was first brought to earth by the sons of heaven, that is, by those who were actually responsible for the original arising of today's Earth humans.
That's fantastic.
Earth humans still do not know many things. But now we have to interrupt our conversation for a while again, because I see that my father has finished his preparations for the Great Leap.
Of course, Simyase. In your speech, however, I noticed that you speak of my father. That seems so familiar to me and truly Earth-humanly.
Were you expecting something else? These things remain always the same, as long as the life forms are material. A change from this will only appear on the purely spiritual levels. And since I am already speaking of this, I want to ask you something before we jump into null time, the timeless, or in the eternity, as you call it. The perceptions there are completely different from the ones that are normal in material life. For that reason, it is also not possible for us to empfinda and receive your thoughts and feelings, because we are still in the process of consciousness-related and spiritual evolution. Therefore, neither I, nor my father, nor any of us will be able to reproduce for you later your feelings and thoughts, so that you may write them down yourself. If nevertheless you wish to do this, there is a technology-based possibility.
Of course I am interested in remembering all my feelings and thoughts, but am I not able to do this myself?
Yes, of course. But you know that your remembering ability is not so highly developed that you can repeat longer memories word for word. That is also not the case with us, which is why we need technical means to reproduce words from symbols and impulses, which then can also be transmitted to you telepathically and which you are able to write down in your own words then, that you form from the impulses and symbols. For this reason, the words that are written are not but they still represent the exact meaning of what was said, which you, according to the impulses and symbols, dress in your own words.
I understand. What possibilities can you offer me then? Naturally, I am interested in writing everything in detail later.
That is not very complicated. The cabins which you can see there, beside the screens, are equipped with all necessary means to capture Empfindungen, feelings, and thoughts. The collected impulses are automatically stored in a special computer and may later be reproduced by it according to convenience. The adjustable and fully adaptable helmet that you see there is fitted with very fine probes and also encompasses a special sensor network in the form of a fine mesh, which intercepts all types of energies and converts them into impulses, which are then forwarded to the computer where they are registered. The captured energy from the thoughts, feeling, Empfindungen, etc. The energies of Empfindungs, feelings, and thoughts exist in this form of transmission only in the realm of hyperfrequencies. To be able to register your thoughts, feelings, and Empfindungs, it's just necessary that you sit yourself in the chair and lay.
Is there really nothing else to do?
No, that is all. Now sit yourself in the cabin. The great journey begins in 23 seconds.
At your service, Miss General.
Following Simyase's instructions, I promptly sit down in the extremely comfortable chair inside one of the 3 cabins. As soon as I am seated, a peculiar helmet moves over my head and settles down silently. It is so large that it encompasses my whole head, only leaving my face open so that I can see out from it and watch everything. But the helmet does not touch my head, rather lying equally close all around and staying about 112 centimeters away from my skull, as I can feel when I place a forefinger between the helmet and my head. Now I am tense and expectant, for I wonder what is going to happen. Ptah and Simyase manipulate the console, and now I can again see the initially calmly passing by constellations are again transformed into strokes and after a few seconds begin to blur. And in the next moment, they are no more than a whitish milky mass, a shimmering mass like I have experienced in all previous hyperleaps. But now suddenly, this milky whitish glow is gone, and there is a complete darkness. What is this? Now, everything is suddenly bathed in a golden color, and then everything is suddenly silvery. But oh man, this radiant light, this radiant brightness. Everything is bathed in radiant light. Everything exists only as radiant light. It is stronger than all the suns of the universe put together. Man, oh man, this bright light, and it doesn't even hurt me in the eyes. Man, this is the eternity, the bright, radiant light of eternity. Look, there exists nothing else but the eternal. Man, how splendid. Splendid! Man, that is the splendor itself. Eternity and splendor are one and the same. Why do I separate them? Why do I put the eternal in terms of time? Time does not exist, and eternity is splendor. Man, what is this? This calm, this peace. What is it? How did I get here? Love. Oh, this deep, all-embracing love. There is nothing but love. Splendid. Oh yes, I am in the eternity. Just how can I forget that? This radiant light, this more splendorous, this love in everything. Oh yes, I am a human being, but how can I? Why do I forget that? I am just a guest in eternity and these lovely voices that call me by. Where do they come from? I see nothing but radiant, soothing light. Who is calling for me? I don't see anything. Man, I am no more. I do not see myself. I am eternity in the eternity. Oh, how is this? I cannot see with my eyes anymore. And yet I can see everything. And I cannot hear with my ears. And yet I hear everything. Yes, love, how powerful it is. How vast, infinite, and splendorous. Everything is love and splendor. Just why does the human being not want to understand that? How? Oh yes, but that cannot be. I am not a human being. I am the eternity. This light, this radiant light, such profound love, calm and peace it has. Oh, now I understand. I cannot see or hear, but I am Finda. I feel, I live, I am Finda. How beautiful is this peace, am I not human? Am I not the eternity? Who is calling for me? Interesting. I sense the hearing without needing the ears, and I see without needing the eyes. I feel the seeing and I feel the hearing. Where am I? Why is this like this? Oh yes, the eternity, now I understand. I am the eternity. Just why was everything so unclear? Just why did I not find the connection? Just why did I forget that I am in the eternity as a human being? Just why can I only think clearly now? Think? I rather am Finda, I feel. How is this possible, and from where do these voices come from, which I cannot hear with my ears, but only am Finda? Only? Why do I am Finda it as only? It's just not like that. Hearing with the ears is so painful and materially bound. Hearing by Mfindan doesn't hurt. And seeing by Mfindan doesn't hurt either. It simply penetrates in me, soft and full of love. It lets me hear and see. But this call, who calls me then? Who is calling me? I feel that someone is calling me. Who is there? This light, this splendorous, radiant light, the call comes from this light. Is it the call of eternity? Oh, but how hard it is. How hard it is not to think that I am only a guest in eternity, that I am a human being. How painful it is, this humanity. I don't want to be that no more. I want to stay here forever as eternity in the eternity. This call of eternity, this deep love. Yes, I want to stay here. I will never go back. In here is the existence, the real existence. I don't understand this call. How can I be here as a human being? Am I not a human being? No, I am not. Now I know it. I am me. I am existence. Just how could I Mfindan myself as a human being? How could I Mfindan myself as a stranger here, who has to return to a material world? I am here and I belong here. Something wanted to mislead me, and it inspired unreal empfindungs in me. But why? I must have already left the material life and died a long time ago. But how long has my transition to here lasted? What have I lived through? There are so many confusing things. There is Simyase and Ptah and many other things. But those are just dreams of the dead. Would this perhaps be always so? Is that the transition from physical being to existence? Would this conversion be dominated by those dreams of the dead? Perhaps to mold the transition correctly, to release the fear of the unknown. I don't know. Or maybe everything was real. No, this is not so because now I am eternity and infinite. These were surely only dreams of the dead, dreams of crossing from material life to real existence. Death is only the intermediate space, the intermediate station between life and existence. Death? That's incorrect. It isn't so, but how do I know that? Who tells me that? Oh, yes, I am offended from this mysterious call, from the splendorous, radiant light of love, from eternity itself. But am I not eternity myself? Oh, of course, that's why I can understand the call. What do I care then about material life and intermediate stations? Just why? I don't understand because it doesn't affect me. I am existence now and have everything behind me. Finally, I am existence. Finally, I am me. Yes, I am fin to the call, but why just now and not then? Yes, it's the call. It's the call of eternity. There are no more individual beings. There is only the great unity of the whole. Why did I not know that? I don't understand it, but why should I understand it? All is really so. Yes, but what yes? It is so. I dissolve. But why? It yes. The existence is vast. Why are these Empfindungen so strange? Why do I think of me? It's not me, it's existence. It's the great unity of the whole. How could I only empfinden of myself? Would this arise from thinking of the long past material lives? It must be so, because in here there are only empfinden in the great unity of the whole. Now I arrive to the understanding that the self has become consciousness, the self is inexistent and has become existence. Everything is only consciousness and empfinden. That's the understanding, that's the existence. Now I understand the empfinden of the strange call, which now isn't strange anymore. It's really the call of eternity, the call of the existence. And now the empfinden is fulfilled with the deepest understanding. Now calm and peace are no more than infinite love, because from it emerge calm and peace. Then why does the human being not understand this? Why does he only seek love in unreal untruths? But why do these Empfindungen exist in the great existence? Why would the great unity bring such Empfindungen into awareness? Oh yes, the Empfinden understands. The eternity is the existence and monitors what takes place in the inexistence, the material life forms. It monitors the life of the human being. So that's why the Empfinden penetrates the consciousness. The Empfinden offers the possibility of conscious recognition, and the existence of the eternity monitors all the events of the inexistence. Therefore also the Empfinden for the human beings. But what does the human being know about it? He strays on dark paths, trapped in irrational teachings, and fails to recognize the truth of the real consciousness of the eternity. How mistaken are the human teachings about truth, which base everything on ignorance? Oh, how painful this is. Why does the human being just not want to understand the real truth and the love? Why does he or she keep themselves imprisoned in cultic heresies and tread the path of destruction with them? Strange, the Empfinden does not register a deity. How mistaken are the human teachings? They are just an evil delusion, which leads to destruction. Just why does the human being not want to be eternity and to become real existence? Why does he or she not free themselves of cultic heresies and run to their doom? Human, why do you do that? See here the eternity? See the real existence and see, here is the great and spirit consciousness, the great unity of the whole. Above the consciousness of the existence stands only the creation, and it is infinitely vaster and more powerful in its awareness of its existence than this level of consciousness. This awareness is the final stage of all spirit levels before becoming one with the creation. Here is the last stage of the possible relative completion before the oneness with the creation. This is the last stage of the final truth and the fulfillment of the relative completion. This is the stage of existing in the consciousness of the existence in the fulfillment of the relative completion. This is the stage of the great unity in the oneness, and here all the self and all the personality is overcome. The consciousness is the call of the eternity and the eternal call of the truth and the all-embracing love. And what can be greater than it? Because everything is born out of it. It's the existence of the creation and the existence of all existence. Beside it, truly nothing exists. Just why does the human being not understand this? Why does he or she chase after irrational teachings? And why does they let themselves be captured by heresies? Nothing exists outside of the creation, and there is no other creation besides it. It alone is the truth of the universe, and it alone is consummate spirit consciousness, perfect love and consummate existence. It's not shaped and not formed, it's spiritual consciousness, spiritual love, and consummate spiritual existence alone. And outside of it is nothing. Human being, why do you not recognize this truth? Why do you let yourself be misled by cultic heresies? And why do you place human creatures and many other things next to it, which should take the place of the existence of the creation? Human being, why do you foreordain a deity in place of the existence of creation? And why do you curse the existence of the creation through the nomination of a god, which mendaciously and fraudulently should be the existence of the creation? Human being, how evil you are in your arrogance! And how can you presume yourself to be above the creation or to equate it with the creatures created by it, by appointing them as gods and imagining them as the creation? How you have become vicious in your thinking, unreasonable and autocratic. O human being, you advance in very evil paths, which lead to destruction, yet by no means will you find in them the way to the real existence of the creation. Here is the eternity, and here only the truth rules. And so also only the truth is expressed. O human being, how great and infinite is the impendon of pain at your ignorance! Despite endless love, a thorn of pain resonates through the impendon of the consciousness and makes the splendor of the radiant light melancholic. Recognize the love still, recognize the truth, human being, so that you too experience the splendor of happiness in the existence of the eternity. You human being of the distant material world, human being of the earth, hear the call of eternity. Let yourself be instructed about the truth and use the power of the spirit and consciousness to recognize the love. Make it your own and thereby flow in the consciousness of the eternal existence. Work your way consciously up to the level of the radiant light and receive here the conscience of the great unity in the unity. Realize the falsity of all cultic heresies and deities, and realize alone the path of the light and the universal love. Realize the way of the truth, the only one which leads to the splendor of the creation. It alone is all-encompassing and all-magnificent. Conceive that, human being, and allow only the truth to be the real truth, because only it leads to the kingdom of eternity. Conceive. The word of the truth is imperishable, because it is empfindung and recognition in the existence of the consciousness of the great unity. The heavens and worlds will perish, but the words of the truth will never perish. They are, oh no, It's so strange the Earth human knows only half the truth, for he or she is misguided by cultic heresy. Yes, but why then? Great unity in consciousness is what? It's so strange. I am Finda so very painful for the Earth human. Why is that? Oh, it's... No, don't. You go away from me. What is it now? I hear your call from somewhere, and it's going away. Why do you go, oh, the light, its radiance decreases? Why is that? I am me again. No, that should not be. No, I don't want to go back. No, I belong here. I know. I am thinking again. I no longer am Finda. Oh, I understand. The light, the radiance is gone now, and already it shimmers gold, and now silver. No, I don't want to. Leave me. I hang in the cabin chair as if I had been executed and stare forward. I don't want and cannot understand being here. I do not want to return to here at all. I want to remain in the beyond, and yet I am here. Just why? I do not understand the world anymore. Why? Oh, why? The beyond is love and existence. And what is here at all? These burdens, these worries, problems and needs, that cannot be true. I want to go back. Oh, this misery, this sad reality of material life. Oh man, this sad misery, this life, this misery. Just why did I come back? Man, oh man, I could howl. Oh, just how can I go back? There must be a way. It's not easy to... Oh, what is that now? Man, what is that? What? Oh, is that you? What are you doing here, Simyase? Why are you shaking me like that? What's happening?
Do you not understand?
What should I understand I don't understand?
We have reached our goal, but we have done a big hyper jump and the rematerialization was delayed by 7 minutes to allow you an intrusion into null time, into the timelessness.
Boss, timelessness?
Do you still not understand?
Oh yes, of course, pitiful. How very pitiful. Why have you brought me back here?
You like to joke, but we have all been inside the timelessness and would all like to stay there. But we must not do that, because we have to complete the path of evolution step by step, as you also must do, dear friend. I know very well the pain you feel now, as we have all experienced the same thing. But we have become accustomed to it and know that we can under no circumstances stay there before we have reached that stage of consciousness which belongs to the great consciousness level. I am very sorry for you that you feel such great misery in you, as it can very easily be seen from your face. But you will overcome it because you are able to think about it very realistically. It was for that reason that we could take responsibility for this experiment. A life form that is weaker in spirit and in consciousness would without a doubt fall into madness upon returning.
Simyase,
It is all very difficult, I know, but you will really overcome it. Come on, rise up now. So yes.
Simyase, I can...
Come!
This will surely help him. Just hold him tight.
Simyase presses me against her and wraps her arms around me. Through her odd suit, I feel the warmth of her body as very soothing and invigorating. So she keeps me pressed against her for a few minutes, and I feel that my vital spirits slowly return. Now I feel truly recovered and strong enough to stand on my feet again.
Thanks, Simyase. Many thanks.
Slowly, she lets go of me and observes me very closely, while a loving smile drifts across her already beautiful face, making it even more beautiful.
Such thoughts are worthy of you.
Ta laughs kindly. Evidently, he has picked up my thoughts.
Thanks. Where actually are we now? The sky is so empty, and I practically see no stars anymore.
We have reached our goal. We are almost at the end of the material universe. Until we reach the barrier, we will go through completely empty space, that is to say, the outer creation belt up to the displacement belt. Up to that point, there are now not only a few million kilometers, but many billions of light years. So we leave the actual material universe, that is to say, the solid-state matter universe belt, and go into the transformation belt and beyond, up to the very end of our Dern universe, where across a barrier, that is to say, a universal barrier, we will then create a passageway to the Dal universe.
Fantastic. But tell me now, why have I had so many thoughts in the great unity of the null time? They were only 7 minutes according to your information, but I have thought more than is possible in 7 minutes.
You have thought no more? You have only empfinden from empfinden to perceive in a fine fluidal manner. In the null time, in the timeless, only empfinden exists in the great unity. You were yourself no more, but only a tiny part of the whole great unity. And in this great unity, the Empfindungen penetrated into you.
I was able to analyze that's right. Only at the beginning did I notice a certain I-force, but then this dissolved in the infinite level and mass of the eternity.
Is that really so?
Of course, otherwise I would not say it.
It is the truth. I know it from his thoughts. You have to be very deep thinking, otherwise you would not have been able to recognize it. Even many of our race need several stays in the timeless to be able to recognize this truth. You originate astonished stirrings in me.
Thanks for the flowers, but now it will not be so bad again.
This is again one of your expressions, which should imply exactly the opposite. But it is really extraordinarily much what you were able to recognize. What do you mean?
Simya-se directs this question to her father.
You speak from my sense, and therefore it will be necessary to check all the registered Empfindungen so as not to reveal knowledge to the Earth humans, which they still cannot cope with.
Should this mean that later, certain things will not be transmitted?
We cannot avoid doing so. Because if in the timelessness you were already in a position to realize the truth of the great unity, then you have realized many other truths, which the immature Earth human is not ready to harvest yet. Therefore, you must later only mention and talk about all those things which we will transmit to you.
Aha, so once again a muzzle. But what about the fact that for now I am still able to recall very many impressions and Empfindungen? If you intend to eliminate these from me, then it bounces off a brick wall.
That is not what is spoken of. You have shown us more than enough, that secrets are very well preserved with you and that you can really keep them. Therefore, we see no need to eliminate any data in you, neither now nor ever afterwards, unless this should be your own special wish.
I am very honored by your opinion, Ptah.
You are worthy of this honor.
Let go of the flower throwing at once. Rather explain to me, what should we actually do in the Dal universe? Simya-se has told me that she has a certain task to carry out in here.
Let yourself calmly be surprised, dear friend. In about 50 minutes you will understand everything and surely also feel great joy.
Good. As I see, we are flying with tremendous speed through the increasingly emptier space, and in here there are no stars in the way, so to speak. Only far ahead I see that star, which is now becoming bigger, and far behind it I can see 5 small blue dots. What star is that, and what are the blue dots?
That is Galtos, the last big star in this part of the material universe. Being twice as large as your homeworld, it has a very big and intense inherent luminosity. The blue dots discernible far behind it are also stars. They belong to the self-radiant blue stars, which generate very intense light. You may not be able to see all of them with the naked eye, but it's not just 5 but 11 stars. If you want, you may of course take pictures of them.
Gladly, I will make the pictures directly through the cupola. I will swap a bit. taking some through your view screen and then simply through the cupola. That way I can see later which photographs come out better. I wonder which method will produce the best photos.
That lies fully within your judgment. You may do as you like.
Thanks. What about the blue stars over there? How big are they, and is life possible on them?
They are no bigger than your home world, although this kind of star is normally 5 to 6 times larger than the Earth. They are as inhospitable and hostile to life as any sun, and as the great planets in the Solar system such as Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. The gravity alone allows no life on these stars, and not even any spiritual life forms are located on them. In 97% of all cases, they are as completely devoid of higher life like your Sun and the planets Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus, etc. In the few cases, however, where life exists on such stars, the existing life forms are exceedingly small, where the total size of thermobacteria is usually not exceeded. The gravitational force of such stars would crush larger forms. But of course, this varies from planet to planet or from star to star, while the atmosphere itself plays no role, because different life forms also live in different atmospheres. Not all life forms breathe oxygen like we pure humans do.
But with us it is always said that very large planets or stars would also be enlivened by correspondingly much larger life forms, if life already exists on them.
This only happens in certain and distinct circumstances. In this, the scientists of the Earth are subject to a nasty error. If life existed, for example, on your planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, then the forms of human or otherwise higher life would have on the one hand to be semi-material only, and on the other to be extremely small. So it is absolutely not the case that size must necessarily. In this particular case, girth can only be overcome by smallness, but only in very exceptionally sturdy forms. On your planets Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, both large and small life forms, with the exception of bacteria, etc., would never be viable because the size of the planets and their atmospheres and consistency make this impossible. As you know, however, with the exception of bacteria, etc., these planets on your system are not home to any life of either material or spiritual form.
I was informed of this fact, yes, and I was also able to verify it at the spot, where I also noticed that not all of these so-called planets are actual planets. I may seem somewhat stupid to you when I address a question to you about the stars and planets. I am well aware myself of the difference between stars and planets, but this would surely be of interest to other human beings. Could you therefore explain the difference between stars and planets?
That can be easily and very quickly explained, because planets are solid and not gaseous cosmic bodies which have practically no inherent luminosity, and which receive their light by the conversion of the incoming solar radiation. Stars are gaseous and energy-converting cosmic bodies, which consequently have an inherent luminosity and generate their light from the emanating processes within their own body. Both are inhabitable for life forms. Planets as well as stars, if atmospheric and other conditions permit it, whereby on stars, that is to say, suns, as a rule only thermobacterial or thermobiocell life is possible.
Aha. And what about the stars, that is to say, the suns, which are half planets? Are these also inhabitable for any higher thermal life forms? Are they perhaps only sun formations on the outer shell, while on the inside inhabitable planets exist, as is often claimed by some Earthlings?
What makes you say that?
Oh, I have read such assertions in some publications. A man by the name of Jacob Lorber, for example, has written such things decades or even a century ago. Also about Saturn, the Moon and other planets, etc. through Simyase. I was in the meantime able to experience and determine by myself on the ground, however, that everything had neither hand nor foot, and that the man had just let his boundless imagination run loose. About others who also wrote books like these or similar. I could find in the course of this year the same thing. When Simya Se brought me to these planets, and I was able to search thoroughly with her help.
I understand. Unfortunately, there are very many humans on the earth who write such books and other nonsensical writings. And as you have realized, it is not more than the product of exuberant human imaginations, mostly related to delusions from some religious influences. This is unfortunately a very common malady with the Earth humans. So is also the fantasy interpretation with respect to livability on your sun only a delusion of religious fanatics and fantasists, because not a single sun in the universe correlates to these fantastic assertions.
Good. That's almost exactly what I was thinking. But how is it with the claim that some humans would receive messages from angels or inspired by God, etc., with God standing as the creator of the universe, of the stars, that is to say the suns, and worlds, as well as all living creatures, etc., that can be seen?
In no cases do these alleged inspirations correspond to the truth, and they are also never linked to so-called angels or gods, or to a form of truth. It is clear that such claims often have religious information. Religions of the type discussed exist only on your Earth. Nowhere else in the universe are they present in this erroneous and confused form. Also, in all other universes known to us, there are no religions of the earthly kind. This is truly limited to your Earth. The Earth religions have probably been carried by space travelers to other cosmic bodies, but for studying purposes only. On the other hand, however, it is taught on many worlds in this universe how deadly religion can be for a life form, where the Earth with its existing or past religions serves as a bad example.
You are saying that not a single world in the entire universe is dominated by one or more misguided and confused religions, except the Earth?
I have just explained that with the exception of your Earth, there exists no religion of this kind in this or another universe.
Those are very big words, Ptah. It is said on the Earth, especially among the Christians, that Emmanuel, whom they call Jesus Christ, is, so to speak, the actual master of the world and the universe. He is supposed to be God incarnate, where this God is regarded as the creation. What do you say about this?
We know about these human delusions on your world. Alone, the idea of a Christ being and a Christ consciousness corresponds to a very evil and degenerate delusion of the Earth humans, and a very ill-natured presumption, because if these things would have happened or would still happen in the future, which is absolutely impossible, because it truly is only a fantasy of delusional Earth humans, then with absolute probability the race which would be given the task of disseminating a religion would not be the Earth humans. As since many millennia on many worlds in the universe, the Earth human stands in the entire universe as a purely materialistically developed life form, which solely represents a life form so deeply addicted to materialism that every consciousness-based evolution over millennia has been detrimental to this degree. On many of our own as well as on other foreign worlds, it is known that the Earth human condemns any reasonable consciousness-based evolution and develops himself or herself only in malicious materialism and diverse religious delusions. And so it would be a paradox of the first order if, from all possible choices, a race so manifoldly incompetent in all consciousness-based areas would be chosen for a task of universal significance. But that the Earth human, despite this fact, presents this allegation, represents on the one hand an immense arrogance, and on the other hand, it bears witness to his or her autocratic megalomania, which in both these forms cannot easily, or not at all, find an equal anywhere else in this or in another universe. And precisely this represents an immense danger to the existence of many races, because if the Earth human becomes master of space-traveling technology and visits foreign worlds, and through the force of arms or by lies and deception strikes them into his spell, he will also inevitably thereby involve his religion spreading delusion. If this actually happens someday, then the single or multiple religions will very quickly reach a form of system-wide or galaxy-wide dissemination by which the still existing galactic harmony could be destroyed. This means that by these irrational teachings of religions, the still ensured peace could be destroyed and degenerate into murderous wars, and the complete destruction of entire suns and planetary systems. Preventing this, however, is the greatest and most difficult task faced by those space-traveling life forms with a higher consciousness-related development. Therein lies also the deepest reason for the fact that we and others from other planets strive to spread the truth on Earth. By selecting individual Earth humans and, through telepathic impulses which they generally do not recognize as such, convey the truth to them, which they then should disseminate so as to finally teach the goodness and the truth to the Earth humans. But that task is very, very difficult to fulfill because the madness of the religions and of the often death-bringing sects has become so rampant on Earth that only with the utmost effort can it be reasoned with. Especially those religions and sects who in their heretical book name the prophet Emmanuel as Jesus Christ and worship him are the strongest opponents of the real truth. These are the Christian religions and sects, but also Islam and Hinduism, as well as Judaism, must be named as dangerous religions, and the same with certain parts of Buddhism, in which serious heresies come to light. Particularly all possible sects from all religions are very dangerous and greatly falsifying of the truth, whereby in times to come many murders, suicides, and mass suicides will happen through them.
That will cause quite a turmoil, Ptah, when you later transmit your words to me and I write them down, because many will read your interpretations then.
It will surely be so, but the truth can no longer be concealed. It has become of urgent need to pronounce it.
As you say, because it does not matter to me. I have long since recognized and come to terms with the truth.
This is well known to me from Asket, who explained everything to me. So, I also know that you have even fathomed the truth through a travel into the past with her.
Why do you say that? You have forbidden me to talk about it.
The facts are indeed not known, but now is the time to talk about it openly and to write it down.
Simyase interrupts our conversation.
We have reached our goal.
What is that now?
I see far in front of us or above us an enormous radiant apparition shimmering in all colors, which seems more than fantastic to me.
That is our goal. If you want, you can take a photo of it. This structure is produced by a spaceship that you can recognize there, very far ahead in the ring-like center. Here our universe ends, and this structure stands as the gateway to another universe, which we call the Dal universe.
Man, but this is enormous. It must certainly have close to 50 kilometers in diameter. And the length of this tunnel, man oh man.
You err very much in your measuring. The diameter of the tunnel amounts to 177,000 meters, and its length totals 7,103,000 million kilometers.
Fantastic, but why are we getting so close to it?
Because we will cross over.
Crossover? To another universe?
Sure, over to the Dal universe.
I am going crazy.
That you will surely not, because you can cope with more than you want to admit.
Do we have to go to another space-time dimension or something? And what is it actually about this Dal universe that seems so familiar to me?
We will remain in the normal time and normal space. You see, we are already far inside the tunnel and nothing changes. But as for the Dal universe, does this not remind you of anything? It is a twin universe of our Dern universe.
It seems very familiar, at least the name. Simyase, that light there in the center.
We have crossed over. We are on the other side.
This I can also see you really are preparing surprises for me. But look there in front, there floats a large spaceship, and very far back are countless stars.
Sure, that ship there is our goal.
Its shape seems as familiar to me as the name Dal did before.
You are very forgetful, but that is typical of you. You have the great ability to apprehend everything again by intuition when you need any information, and this way you do not need to store many things in your memory.
That may be true, Simyase, but wait a minute, Dal, that girl, that was back then, Askett told me then, that she came from the Dal universe. Man, I am stupid, of course, that's it after all. That's the solution of the riddle. You really know how to prepare surprises for me. Surely Askett must be hidden inside the box there. Right?
Let yourself be surprised.
Then it's true. Hey, why are we rushing so fast and getting so close? Do you want to ram the ship?
No, we are only getting close enough to it to go over in the shortest possible time, that is, you and Simyase.
Am I to...
Of course. Come now. Let's go down to my beam ship.
Simyase takes me by the hand and pulls me to a kind of metal box next to the horseshoe-shaped switch and control gear console. There is no door on the box, but instead, a hole in the floor measuring about 1 meter of diameter, which is illuminated by a shimmering blue light. A shaft that goes into an endless depth and seems to have no end. I look down and see that very far below, the walls of the shaft get closer and finally seem to touch. I cannot see the end. It's clear to me that the self-narrowing of the shaft far below is only an illusion. Man, and now we supposed are to step into it?
Simply step into the shaft and let yourself slide down.
Oh boy, this is just crazy. I will shoot through the hole like a torpedo and land directly in hell. But okay, Simyase did say that I should jump in. Okay, I'll just do it then. She must know if the thing is really fit for this purpose. Probably more than all my bones I cannot break. And deeper than directly to hell, I probably cannot dive either. Well, jump already, comrade. And I jump. Man, I am really hanging in the air. Oh, now it's slowly going downwards. And now it gets faster and faster. Oh boy, this is really a sliding shaft. I look up. Aha, there comes Simyase as well. Man, this is great, but why am I suddenly slowing down? Oh, there is already ground beneath me. I am standing on solid ground now, and here are again all the many beam ships from before. We are at the hangar.
You do have thoughts, I must tell you that. Just what have you thought of a hell? That is but nonsense.
I know. It's just a type of thought that I have.
Sure, I understand. Come on now, let's go to my beam ship.
We walk over to the ship, let ourselves be lifted inside, and already the hatch closes behind us.
You are probably a little excited.
Is that so strange? If one is suddenly to see someone whom one never expected to see again? And all this in a place that is so fantastically far from my home world that I am no longer able to conceive the distance from there to here in the slightest? There is also the grandiose thing, that this meeting is occurring on a universe that is strange to me. I really don't know, Simyase, if I can digest all of this and if I won't go crazy. What is your opinion, on the other hand, about the fact that I get sad and mad when I think that I must go back to Earth? I could howl when I think of it. I would prefer to stay away forever.
That is understandable, but would you be able to take responsibility for that?
No, because I know that I have to fulfill my task, and I still have other unavoidable obligations.
You see, you are not able to escape from your self-generated obligations. You know how very important the fulfillment of your mission is, and that you have to follow your own way towards it. This is very important because only this way can you go through evolution consistently. If your fellow humans were to think and act just like you, then everything would be easy and peace and love would prevail. If you really wanted to stay with us, though, we would be very understanding and we could really provide this possibility for you as well. That really is only up to you.
Thank you, Simyase. Your words honor me immensely, but I know for sure that I really have to go back. I cannot simply deny and drop the responsibility towards my family and towards my fellow humans, even if the prospect of going back to my unpeaceful, sorrowful, and material world seems very difficult for me.
I did not expect another answer from you. We are now ready to float over. The lock is open.
I see that the hangar doors have opened themselves during our short conversation. Now the small beam ship slowly rises and floats towards Asket's huge spaceship, which hangs in free space only a few hundred meters away. As in the Giant from which we departed, we float into an airlock, which however is very much smaller than the one on Ta's Space Giant. Now we are inside, and immediately the opening closes behind us. Everything happens very quickly, and we then let ourselves float down through the exit to the floor of the small hangar. Here we stand now, and all around I see only metallic, light-emitting walls. There are no other beam ships in here, only ours. Without a word, I follow Simyase, who approaches a wall on the right side in which an opening suddenly appears, through which we pass now. And behind us, the small passage closes again. We are now in a cozy room with very comfortable seating accommodations and some structures which obviously have to be tables. And man, she actually is there! Asket stands there smiling. I feel stupid, but I simply cannot speak. A whole damn lump sits again in my throat, and it makes me choke pathetically. What is this now? Man, oh man, what is this now? Am I so soft now that I want to cry? Oh boy, just what is this then? Is this really happening, or am I just dreaming? No, it's actually the reality. Asket is actually walking towards me now, wordless and smiling. She now grabs my hand, squeezes it, and suddenly pulls me towards herself. Man, this sudden warmth from her body and the firm pressure of her arms. Man, oh man, it truly is the reality. I am not dreaming. Girl, oh girl.
Asket, Billy's teacher from 1953 to 1964, drawn up by Christian Krukowski, 1978, 2000.
You really are not dreaming. Be very lovingly welcome. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you here.
Man, what are you doing, Asket? What you give me a kiss on the cheek. Girl, what's with that? I always thought that this would be a thing that is only done on Earth.
Did you really think that?
I do not understand. What do you mean?
I was able to capture your thoughts.
Ah, that too. I'm sorry, Asket.
You do not have to apologize.
Thanks, but now let me take a good look at you first. Girl, you are simply beautiful. You have not changed at all. Oh, of course. You know how very happy I am to be able to see you again and to talk to you. Girl, that's much more than I have ever dreamt. I thought at your departure that I would never see you again. Surely you knew then that there would be another reunion. Why did you not say anything about it?
The possibility of this meeting was not taken into consideration then, which is why I also could not mention it. But I see that a change has occurred. I'm sorry.
You mean my arm?
Yes.
You know, I have already gotten used to it a long time ago, and now I cannot imagine a life with 2 arms anymore. I have long forgotten about it. In addition, I was able to prepare myself for it during a year, and to find a way of dealing with it before the arm was lost. You told me the whole thing in advance. Cannot you remember it?
If you say it, then it must be so. I know about that, but not very accurately anymore. But why don't you wear any help?
On Earth, unfortunately, these things are still very primitive.
I could have a device made for you which would completely replace your arm. A semi-organic apparatus.
Many thanks, Askit. That is really very kind of you. But believe me, I can no longer imagine a life with 2 arms. And on the other hand, I know very well that I have not simply lost my arm for nothing. The accident and the loss of the arm had to be. I have learned a tremendous amount from this, and will certainly continue learning a lot more.
These thoughts are very worthy of you. From my part, I just thought that a help with certain things would be useful to you.
I thank you very much, Askit, but I really do not want it. You know, such an apparatus would also bring forth too many problems on Earth. We have many limb amputees who would also need this equipment, and to whom I would be unfair if I had to withhold it from them. Added to that is the big problem that many of these humans, if they had such aid, would again become dissatisfied life forms. You know that it is like that with us, that the person often falls prey to materialism again, if he becomes well again soon. On the other hand, scientists and governments also come behind the matter, and that could lead to a disaster. Namely, if I had such a semi-organic apparatus or prosthesis, I could certainly not conceal it for long. The result would be that it would be taken from me and examined very closely. And if it were semi-organic, then the clarification and determination of all the details wouldn't be very far ahead, and therefore the gathering of any profound insights, from which the scientists could then produce robots and the like, which in turn would be used for evil and military purposes, so the catastrophe would inevitably come upon the Earth. As tempting as your offer is, Askit, for those reasons alone I cannot accept it.
Those are unselfish words, dear friend, and you are right with them too. I hadn't really thought I allowed myself to be guided by my compassion alone.
In many of these things, he truly thinks and acts precisely like us.
Leave that now, please, and do not throw flowers anymore.
You have not changed. You're still so modest.
Now a wall opens in the background on the left side and another female human comes in.
This is Nera. She is my representative.
I spontaneously extend my hand to Nera, and once again I notice a very firm and pleasant pressure of the hand.
I am pleased to meet you.
Somewhat silly words, but what else can I say?
Your words are good, don't think of them as silly. For my part, I am pleased to welcome you here.
Have you groped in my thoughts?
Nera laughing.
If you mean by that, have I entered into your thoughts, then no. Your thoughts are just extremely strong, as a consequence of which they cannot be ignored.
I see, but in what matters do you stand as Askit's representative?
I am the second coordinator.
That is the location of points in space, or something similar, isn't it?
Surely.
Then you are not the commander of this ship, Askit?
No, I am the first coordinator here. The guidance or the command of this ship rests with Stala.
Man or woman?
That is the name of a man. Regrettably, you will, however, not see him. We will remain together down here in this room. So, according to your sense, we are among ourselves quite privately, but before we talk together, I would first like to clear up with Simyase the facts which need to be settled. In the meantime, you can talk with Nera. It will not take long.
Good. Then with Nera I will talk. She is evidently also a very dear and nice girl.
Nera laughing.
Am I that?
What do you mean, oh? I understand. My thoughts. Yes, I am Findaid.
You allow yourself to be very deeply guided by feeling impulses, and these feelings are very sincere. I have not been able to observe this in Earth humans before.
Ooh, and you observed who?
Why should I not? I have been on Earth on several occasions already. But that was a long time ago.
So that's the reason. I understand. But may I perhaps know if you or Askit are coming there again soon?
In your time, not anymore.
But only when I am already long dead and rotten?
Nera laughs heartily.
You seem to have overcome the horror of death planted in you by the religions.
Shouldn't I have yet? It's just nonsense.
That is correct. Yes, we will go there after your departure from the Earth. A very long time afterwards.
Why?
It's all related with the terrestrial evolution.
Aha. Then it would be pointless to ask about the how and why.
If you mean regarding the details, then you are correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. Then I won't question myself about it either. But can you perhaps explain to me now, why is it that already with Simya Se and now also with you, I am practically only confronted with female beings? Is there a specific reason for that, or did it just happen to be so?
Has Simya Se not informed you about that?
No, and I never asked about it either.
Okay, so I will explain to you that on the one hand with us and also with Simya Se's people, we know of no value differences between male and female beings, as is the case on Earth. With us, both sexes are acknowledged as both equally valuable and entitled. For this reason, our beam ships are also manned accordingly by male and female life forms, whereby every position is also filled alternately by both sexes. In your case in particular, however, Ascot noticed in your contacts back then that you can get around with female life forms much better than it would be possible with male life forms. This fact is extremely pronounced in you, and you have a still unknown to us capacity to feeling relatedly empathize with female life forms, by which you apprehend their deepest feelings and are able to analyze them if you want to. Therefore, it was logical for us to bring you mainly into contact with female life forms, and to involve male life forms only there, where we were able to determine with the highest probability data that they would be able to trigger the necessary feeling vibrations in you. With the highest probability data, this fact derives from the existing knowledge in you that, on the one hand, the female life forms have always been oppressed and enslaved by the male life forms, and that, as a rule, even if with some exceptions. On the other hand, since time immemorial, it was practically only the male life form who carried the responsibility for all those things, which drove the Earth humans into irrational teachings. Wars, slavery, exploitation, and consciousness-based bondage. This is our probability calculation in its highest values, and the reason why we practically only make contacts with you through female life forms.
The things with the feelings are not new to me. Nevertheless, your justification still surprises me. But it may actually be possible that you have hit the nail right in the head, because I actually think along these lines. This may also be the reason why I am very picky about men, when I have to work with them more closely. It is totally not the case that I could not stand around them, or that I despise or even hate them. No, absolutely not. It's just that they often startle me with their behavior, thoughts, and actions, because they always want to establish that the female beings must be subservient to them, and that they are the masters of the world. They are also very much more materialistic thinkers than women in general. And also with their sensitivity and their feeling capacity, they are not quite up to par. The female being is much more developed in these things, but also only because it has been oppressed by the male world for thousands of years and doomed to futility. This higher development in women is probably also what draws me to them, and why I find them to be better and more understanding conversation partners.
That is a true word, behind which however many more things are hidden.
It may be so, Nera, but where have Ascot and Simya Se gone to? They were in the airlock room just a while ago.
Simya Se is bringing a time projectile back to us. That's what she has gone to get now.
Oh yes, Simya Se told me something about it. Are you allowed to tell me what this thing is?
For 9 years, we have been researching a new technology for time travel over unmeasurable distances and time periods, and also across various universes, without the need to open a barrier. For this purpose, we have developed small spiral-shaped time projectiles, which for now we are transmitting from and to the present time, specifically from our universe's present time into yours. And since Simyase understands these technologies and works with us, it's only understandable that we guide some of our projectiles to your own Earth. 3 years ago, we transmitted the last projectile to there, where unfortunately it could not be found for a long time because of a very small error that had arisen in the time calculation. Thus, the projectile landed several thousand kilometers to the east of the intended target, because the Earth had rotated by this distance during the course of the projectile's journey. This mistake was discovered some months ago by us, and so we were able to find out where the projectile had really landed. Simyase effectively found it then and has brought it back to us now, because it is very valuable for us. But they are already returning now.
Aha. And why has Simyase not transported the thing back here by other means? Like time travel or hypertransport or something?
Because she agreed to a reunion with you with Asket, wherein the projectile would also be brought.
Man, oh man. So they did in fact make this giant voyage only to give my humble self a chance to see Asket again?
That is actually so, because I also wanted to see you one more time.
That is wonderful of you, Asket. That is really wonderful.
We too are only plain human creatures, in which feelings move.
Which unfortunately, you don't always want to display visibly, as I have noted. That is really a shame.
Allowing feelings to be recognized is not always good.
That certainly has its correctness. However, in my opinion, you just give yourselves too little to these feelings, although they move you.
That's right, but we have already talked about it.
I know, you obviously don't want to talk about it more, because it also involves you. Good, then we leave it as it is. But now I have a special question for you, Asket. For a long time I have been trying to get Simyase's permission to take a photo of her. Unfortunately, however, I cannot get consent from her. But how would it be if I could capture you and Nera on my film now? Would you allow that?
If this would please you, then of course. With Simyase, unfortunately, if you took a photo of her and were to distribute it on the Earth, her security would no longer be guaranteed. For this reason, she also had to prohibit this when certain difficulties emerged in your group. I only fear that the photos you take of me and Nera now won't come out very well.
But why not then?
I know from my stay on Earth that the images were always very poor when they were taken aboard our ship or in the surroundings. They mostly were very unsharp or simply blurred. This has to do with certain energy radiations which are harmless to living forms, but distort everything and often impair and change the colors of color films.
So you have dedicated yourself to filming then? And what about the apparatus which Simyase assembled for me to get better photos?
For my own interest, I have occupied myself with photography, and so I also recognize the difficulties with the faltering energy radiation, which is even able to destroy the film in some cases. But which apparatus are you speaking of?
Simyase assembled a device for me to be able to photograph better.
Asket turns to Simyase and shortly talks with her. And now she explains me the following.
Simya, Say has explained to me what type of device it is, which unfortunately you would not understand. I'm sorry to tell you that the images with this device will with certainty not be very good either. But we will strive together to construct an effective device to provide you with better photo material on a later opportunity. But if you nevertheless want to take some pictures of us now, then you may do so. If you make no use of it and keep it only for yourself, then you may take a group photo of us all, including Simyase.
Thank you, Asket. Of course I will keep it for myself if it comes out good.
So take the photo now. At a later point in time, you will also be allowed to take several photos of Simyase when she is no longer at risk on Earth. But this may take several more years or even decades. For my part, being recognized makes no difference, because I will not return to the Earth for the time being. With Nera it is the same. Besides, in the whole universe, there are life forms that look deceptively similar to each other, whereby a person can be mistaken for someone else. You call this doppelganger.
I understand. I will take the photos now.
Asket, Nera, and Simyase stand together, and I take more photos now. Unlike Simyase, Asket and Nera don't wear spacesuits, but normal clothes, which are actually quite different from those I know of Earth women's clothing. But they all are very well dressed with them. Later, it turned out, unfortunately, that the group photo was completely unrecognizable.
That should probably be enough because we still have many more things to talk about. Not all of this is destined for the knowledge of Earth humans, but only for you and us. So I will have to leave many things from the following discussion out of the later transmission. You will now be initiated into facts which are ahead of the Earth human's evolution by more than 470 years, and which you therefore must never mention. Each form of life has a certain time span, which in accordance with the evolution may be skipped without damage arising from it. On average, this possibility for the Earth humans is just 9.4 months according to the consciousness-related development level of the present time. A few exceptions are formed by Earth humans with highly developed spirits, in which case a skipping span of 89.7 years may be awarded.
I can indeed accept these explanations, Simyase, even if I cannot calculate the numbers you mentioned by myself. But what you said about my person is not evident to me anymore, because it stands in direct contradiction with your explanation. Somehow a serious mistake must have impaired you. You said just now that you want to initiate me into things which stand by 470 or more years ahead of the Earth human's evolution. That's not evident to me. You just mentioned an average time of 9.4 months and a maximum time of 89.7 years. I cannot decide, but in my megalomania I presume that I am a little above average and therefore can skip about 15 or 20 years of development with very good help. It is therefore likely to be a serious violation of the laws of the creation, if you want to initiate me into things which are ahead of my own development stage by more than 470 years.
Dear friend, even your modesty must know its limits. What you have pronounced just now represents an unjustified self-abasement. You let feelings germinate in me thereby, which are not of a joyful nature, and which arouse impulses of a rebuking kind. It should be told to you that your modesty is already degenerating into forms of self-abasement, which you must fight against in yourself. It's not acceptable that you deny the extent of your own consciousness, your true knowledge of the spiritual teaching and the creational laws and recommendations, and your wisdom. Recognize at last that an excessive modesty and selflessness are equivalent to an evil degeneration, which inevitably always demands its negative tribute. So if you do not work on yourself very quickly in this regard and correct this error, then you will not be able to do justice to your mission. Only by the rectification of these errors will you obtain enough initiative to be able to accomplish your task. We all know very well that you repeatedly got yourself in dire straits on your homeworld because of your humility and selflessness, and are now standing near the end again. We know very well about the circumstances on Earth, and are aware of the significance of your so-called money, which you need to live as much as the air to breathe. And these are the main things which are affected by your humility and selflessness. Because where other Earth humans demand money as compensation for their hard work, you work for nothing, and even let yourself be deliberately deceived. You behave yourself exactly according to an old and erroneous saying of your world, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. However, every work is worth its wages, and always in its appropriate and different values. The wages consist on the one hand of consciousness-based ones and on the other of material values. And especially on your world, the material values are very highly considered and represent the living possibilities to a very high degree. Therefore, you must also be rewarded for each work with material values, as well as with consciousness-based values in equal measure. If therefore we have chosen you as it was destined, among 3,500 million Earth humans for a certain mission, then you must also be able to feed and take care of your family through this mission. Through the fulfillment of your mission, you are executing a job, just like any other working Earth human. In comparison with all the other working Earth humans, yours is, however, the most valuable and the largest of the current time, as well as for the coming future, in what concerns the furthering of evolution. And it truly is a work that requires a wage, even more than any other work. That is the course of your homeworld, which also you cannot evade. You maintain the contacts with Simyase and us, and you write down all the reports which are transmitted to you by us, Simyase, and by Arahat Athasata, to lay them bare one day to the Earth humans as a milestone of truth, knowledge, wisdom, and love. In your very questionable modesty, and your equally very questionable selflessness, you, however, work very long hours every day until the approaching exhaustion, without bearing in mind that you also have to keep your family and yourself alive. Truly, your humility and selflessness were a very important prerequisite for us to contact you, because it was only through the existence of these two factors that the possibility was created, that you would also spread your self-generated and partially acquired from our transmissions knowledge and wisdom correctly, and without wanting to profit from the Earth humans. You also have in yourself the necessary and sincere love for all life forms, even when you want to hide this through hard speeches and words. An excessive modesty and selflessness, however, dear friend, are your most dangerous enemies. So do not think that you should do all the work, simply because you stand as the predestined one. On the one hand, the work is really not only up to you, but also to many others, who will also join you in the coming decades, who you can initiate and to whom you will have to transmit everything. Also, your present as well as your future extended interest group is therefore included, in which every single person must strive to be helpful as well, if success is to be achieved. On the other hand, it becomes impossible by all this, that in addition to the voluntary and self-imposed work connected with your mission, you can still pursue a wage and employment so that you can assure the subsistence of you and your family. In reference to the mission, you are doing an unquestionably more important and greater work than any other Earth human on any other activity. But also this work, or precisely this work, must bring you enough income in order to be able to survive and also to secure a livelihood. Therefore, it is absolutely wrong of you to perform all of your great work for free if you look at it from the material point of view. You cannot and should not pass along the reports and everything else free of charge, but you must provide everything with reasonable prices and also make a little profit. Only this way can you survive and also accomplish your mission. Therefore, work hard on yourself and fix the excessive modesty and unselfishness. We know, moreover, that you have entirely renounced materialism, which demands a great praise. But remember that you live in a materialistic world, and that you must adapt yourself to it to the extent that you assure the everyday life and its needs. So if things with you are not oriented in a manner that would allow you to engage with the, for you, forbidden financial material matters, then ask a close friend to deal with them and to take care of them for you. Otherwise, you have to learn them yourself. If you do not follow this advice, then within a few months you will have to bring everything to an end again as already back in India. But that's not the purpose of all this, because the time is short and the events in your world call for the dissemination of the truth. Remember these words and behave accordingly. And now I would like to give you yet another advice, because the manner in which you and your group have worked so far leads everything to no goal. Many months have passed since your first contact with Simya Se. Months of useless time in which no major progress has been achieved. Neither you nor your group have achieved any success if we disregard very minimal things of none or very little importance. It has been a very long time already since you all strive very intensively in all things and have stepped into the general public of the Earth humanity. However, you will not be able to do this through empty discussions and disputes because they bear no fruits. We know well the views of some that everything must start small, which for many things may well be the truth. This kind of small, however, which is being considered and applied, is completely meaningless and fruitless because it will never bring success. The time has now come when you must be proactive and reach the general public. This, however, you cannot do in secret and not only in narrow circles. The general public is important, and so are many other groups and communities which are interested in certain things. But this general public and also other groups and communities cannot be reached only with spoken words and letters to promote the purposes of the mission. For this end, you need a medium that is able to take many things at once and to clearly define them. You call such an organ newspaper, etc., and only such a publication can be of benefit to you. It will not be possible for you to have such a newspaper, etc., coming out daily or even weekly, but you have all the possibilities to produce such information in monthly or multi-monthly intervals and to distribute it. And now, a word about your assumption that Simya Se would have been mistaken with the time periods of evolution over leap years, because that is really not so, dear friend. Currently, you are the only Earth human who is already so highly developed in consciousness with respect to the spiritual science of creational form that you may be granted an evolution-skipping period of 500 years. This is indeed not the highest amount of all the possible times, but you have already achieved the mentioned large amount. You may realize this in yourself if you honestly and very accurately observe and analyze all the existing consciousness statuses of earthly life forms. You really are the only human being on your home world at the present time who holds undeterred and unrelenting and with absolute knowledge of the real truth of the creational laws, without doubting. This had to be said to you at one point.
It is actually so, and it really had to be said at one point.
All right, I will try very hard to not continue with these mistakes, as Ascot has called them. It is probably right, what you said, although I feel a little concerned. But I will really try, because I want to successfully fulfill my duty, as I really must. It is also clear to me, with respect to the publication media you mentioned, because this would also, in my opinion, be a good or perhaps the only method in which to be able to disseminate everything quickly. But I have become completely exhausted financially and cannot really undertake anything new. I would probably see a possibility if I could buy a suitable machine to print a newspaper or a monthly magazine, and also many other things. But I really have no more capital available, except the essential emergency reserve. I also know that within a few months I will be completely at the end, if nothing happens to the contrary. But I do not know how I can change that, because for my part, I am at my wit's end and no longer know what else I could do. If you could help me?
The idea of the machine you mentioned is very good, and it would be very pleasant if you could get the necessary means for acquiring it. Therefore, we will endeavor in a decisive manner for it. This would help you extraordinarily and accelerate the fulfillment of the task, even in the early stages as well. If your group members would help you voluntarily through our impulses in this regard, then you certainly could resolve this problem in one way or another. I cannot tell you, however, that you have to buy such a machine because these things must be left to you and your group. You yourselves must take the decisions in these matters. We do not come to you in order to command you, but to inform you and to support you in certain things and directions. We bring you a certain good, but you must manage and process it and raise it to useful values in yourself. Therefore, we cannot give you orders or explain to you in advance what the future holds in certain things. If you knew this, then we would deprive you of development periods which you must inevitably go through. Your efforts would also be compromised thereby as the result of a remission of efforts. Therefore, I can only say that the idea in relation to the work machine you mentioned is very good. It is allowed for me to explain that the beginning will be very hard and everything will slowly turn to the better if you really can purchase such an apparatus or such equipment. In regards to our help, which we could give you in the form of material things, I have already talked about it several times. I have explained to you the facts about certain possibilities of crystals, etc., which you could sell. This, in addition to the aforementioned impulses, is the only help that we could offer. However, this is only possible if, through any kind of information media, you finally reach the Earth humans and introduce this possibility to them. Otherwise, my suggestion remains just a suggestion.
This is clear to me, Simyase, but I don't know if I can do anything.
If you channel your excessive modesty and selflessness in normal viable potencies, then you can also talk about these things in your group and explain everything.
That will not be easy, though.
It surely won't, because more or less all the group members are still very strongly pending towards materialism, and on the other hand, they don't want to understand that only you are qualified to have contacts with us. This is a doubt in them, which they can only eradicate with great difficulty. Simyase has already stated several times that under no circumstances can anything be changed regarding your exclusive right and your exclusive qualification. Yet a lot of questions are still being raised on why it could not be otherwise. Simyase has also repeatedly stated the reasons and given explanations, which, however, have remained fruitless until now and found no consideration. This is not only stupid and illogical, but it also testifies to a deliberate lack of understanding and to a striving to push forwards to the first place. On the other hand, until now you have been able to create a great amount of photographic evidence, etc., which testify to our existence and which should certainly be enough. But also this fact is not recognized, and constant further evidence of our existence and of our beam ships is demanded. Without exception, all the members of your group want at least visual contact with our ships, or something of the sort. Simyase has, however, already offered this opportunity once to 4 of your group members. But this fact has also been fruitless, and more visual contacts were desired. Simyase has conceded this too, even though we are not very pleased about it, because a demonstration of this kind would probably remain fruitless as well. But since nothing should be left untried on our part, we have thus agreed to a last such visual contact. More will, however, deliberately not be possible. Those who can come to terms with it will get over it. With those who cannot, however, it will be better if they were no longer associated with our doings. Only wanting to satisfy one's desire for sensation is useless to our cause. Those who want to devote themselves to the things should strive in all honesty for the true knowledge and the wisdom, and move themselves away from the material forms of thinking as much as the truth requires. Anything else is futile and undermines everything. It should finally be noted that by earthly standards, we are very advanced life forms, and we can no longer move among such low understanding-based levels as the Earth humans find themselves in. This doesn't represent presumption from us, but rather a law of the creation. Like it is with us, it is with all life forms, also the Earth human beings. They too can no longer move in levels below their own, therefore they are also no longer able to move in the planes of those life forms, which according to earthly terms are insane, but truly just have a sick or underdeveloped consciousness, and in the last case, are in reality just very young and ignorant in regard to the evolution and must first develop themselves further. However, in order to be able to meet all the duties, from time to time and through the existence of the creational laws, in cooperation with and with the help of higher developed universes, each world brings forth, according to each of the corresponding states of the respective human evolution, one or more life forms of extraordinary spiritual and consciousness-based development standing, with which in turn many more higher standing intelligences may come in conjunction so as to be able to transmit certain facts about consciousness-based and spiritual evolution. These extremely highly developed life forms have been called prophets on Earth, who unfortunately in their time were without exception always attacked and persecuted, a fact which has still not changed up to the present time. Even today, on the earth the prophets are cursed and blasphemed, and they are accused of fraud, of charlatanism, and of telling lies and fantasies. This is so because the earth human does not hear the voice of truth, and does not want to let go of his or her false realism and materialism. For all these reasons, we can only come in connection with an earthly life form that meets our requirements, and with whom we can also maintain relations with. And since the Earth in the last 2,000 years has only produced a single life form which corresponds to our requirements, we had to, and have to, lawfully comply in keeping ourselves to this one. All other life forms cannot be taken into consideration by us regarding a contact in connection with the mission known to you. Already so often, communication difficulties arising in the form that our interpretations, formulations, and explanations are incorrectly integrated and analyzed when you pass them along. It must finally be clear that you alone walk hand in hand with the creation energy teaching, etc., and have the appropriate high conscience and high spirit form, and as such, you are the only person that we can come into connection with. And because these things are truly this way, there is no need, and it is not possible, to make ourselves more visible. Besides us, there are still several other extraterrestrial intelligences moving in the terrestrial space, who, however, stand in a much lower stage of evolution than our own, and who are developed ahead of the Earth humans by only a few centuries, and by only around 1,243 years of further development at most. These life forms are therefore able to come into contact with the average and somewhat more intelligent Earth humans and to communicate with them, which however happens only very rarely, if ever. Since these intelligences have not yet gone very far ahead of the Earth humanity in terms of development, they very often conduct themselves as rulers, and can even let themselves be misled and influenced by the Earth religions, which is why many higher developed life forms in the universe must intervene in a regulatory manner to prevent severe consequences. Because where religions are widespread, always after a very short time chaos, enslavement, exploitation, and consciousness enslavement rule, whereby all consciousness-based progress comes into question. Some Earth humans have taken possession of parts of contact report transcripts, describing real much earlier contacts with such extraterrestrial intelligences, and created new imaginative stories and formed religions and sects from them. Thus they stepped, or would have stepped, into the public and mendaciously claimed, or would have claimed, that they had or would have had contacts with extraterrestrial life forms. Other Earth humans allegedly, or in reality, received various inspiration-type messages from such low levels, That is to say, from meagerly developed in consciousness terrestrial or extraterrestrial humans, adulterated these, or produced them unconsciously or consciously and untruthfully. This also resulted in malicious fantasies that purely spiritual life forms would have gotten into contact with Earth humans and would still be doing so. But this truly is not so, because purely spiritual forms only establish contact with life forms which are very highly developed in spirit and in consciousness, as only these are able to receive their vibrations and can bring about the necessary understanding. So, if other claims are made by Earth humans, then these do not correspond to the truth, but rather to consciously or unconsciously deceitful fantasies. The fact is that very highly developed life forms, or even pure spirit forms, were since always never able to establish contact with Earth humans unless they met an extraordinarily high spiritual and consciousness-related state, which led likewise to an extraordinarily high level, as it was the case with several true prophets. In each cosmic age, a world brings forth only very few of such highly developed in spirit and consciousness-based life forms, if the average form is still on a very low level of evolution, as it is the case with the Earth humans. On the other hand, these highly developed life forms of such worlds, the prophets, also appear only at certain times, when they are necessary. And on the Earth, this is the first time that such a case has occurred since nearly 2,000 years. This the Earth human must know.
It's fair and good what you say there, Askit, but many claim that they are in connection, etc., with star people, otherworldly and spiritual and purely spiritual beings.
In reality, this is only the truth to the extent that these Earth humans are connected with other terrestrial life forms through the Earth humanity's collective subconscious, and are inspired or even misled, cheated and swindled by these, which are themselves still at very low levels, and which compared to the great mass of Earth humans are not, or are only in a few things, further developed in consciousness. In addition, however, there also appear low Earth human intelligences who in their thirst for might would like to hold the scepter over their fellow Earth humans, and being aware of the earthly religious heresies, they try to take advantage of this, and thus, according to their lust for power, they influence the ones who have fallen into religions and sects.
Aha, Simya-se has also spoken of this once before. However, it seems to me to be worth mentioning now, the fact that Simya-se, as well as Arahatathersada, also said that for 2,000 years, no contact of any kind has taken place with Earth humans, namely from extraterrestrials, pure spirit forms, etc.
I have just explained that this refers only to really very high forms, but not to lower and spiritually and consciousness-based, unhigh forms.
What do you think about the influences of these low life forms and low essence forms on humans? If these actually intervene in the affairs of Earth humans, do they bring or have any benefit for the Earth humans?
They have this only partially, like everything that is evolving. Often behind these contacts lurk collective human subconscious forms, etc., but also a very great danger, which unfortunately the Earth humans will only be able to recognize after evil wars and catastrophes have befallen them. In many cases, powerful leaders on the Earth have also subconsciously been maliciously influenced by such collective human subconscious intelligences and, as desired, trigger death and destruction, ignorance, doom, deception, hatred and annihilation, this in political as well as in religious areas. However, individuals are also affected by these malicious collective subconscious powers, and as a consequence then, in delusion or delusional belief, they commit murders, suicides, and mass murders, and trigger catastrophes. These human beings who are influenced by such collective subconscious intelligences, that is to say, collective subconscious powers, belong, however, and without exception, to sectarian religious beliefs, which constitute the main breeding ground. These Earth humans will be approached through the collective subconscious forces in the form that they are transmitted, the delusion that God personally, or Christ or Satan, etc., has issued them the command for murder, war or suicide, etc. If the Earth human would finally get rid of his or her deadly sects and religions, then these misleading or malicious collective subconscious intelligences, that is to say collective subconscious powers, would lose their suggestive power over him or her, because where truth and logic and the compliance with the creational laws prevail, evil can no longer assert itself. But since these malicious human collective subconsciousness intelligences are aware of this, they very skillfully control and direct the lives of sects and religions. They even understand how to propagate the madness of religions and sects, and to push the Earth humans more and more to an evil religious sectarian fanaticism. In this connection, the infamous machinations of alleged contacts with extraterrestrials or high spirit forms, etc., are very popular with them. To the Earth humans who listen to these subconscious voices, they present themselves as envoys from God, guardians of peace, keepers of the universe, angels, on behalf of Jesus Christ, and as praise and salvation heralds, etc. As collective subconsciousness-based, inspirationally transmitted influences, these voices designate themselves as such, and claim repeatedly as well that they are some high-standing spirit forms, deceased or even pure spirit forms, etc. In utilization of their diverse capabilities, the collective subconsciousness voices are also able to create hallucinations and fantastic apparitions for the Earth humans, mostly on sectarian religious basis, such as saint figures, images of Christ, images of Mary, crosses, etc., which appear to the Earth human as miracles and entangle him or her deeper and more madly in the religions and sects. And that this is actually so, of it you could convince yourself when I led you to the crucifixion utensils in the depths of the Giza pyramid. But as the demonstration of this fact was not enough then, for you to learn through facts about these deadly earth religions, I granted you later, along with your friend, the journey into the past, where you could convince yourself on the spot of the conniving operations of about 2,000 years ago.
Man, girl, why do you mention these things? You have told me at the time that under no circumstances should I talk about it, before you allowed me to do so. Now you are talking about it yourself, and if even a small error happens during the transmission from Simya Se, I will automatically put everything on paper. You really have to be more careful.
Such errors as you accept them can never happen in transmissions. This, on the one hand, but on the other I speak about these things because the time has come to explain everything. Your task postulates that you now talk about all these things from our former contacts and that you convey all the knowledge to the Earth humans.
Good grief, I'm going crazy. I should talk about all that now? I will undoubtedly be put in the madhouse. I still cannot tell anyone that I have traveled 2,000 years into the past with you, and that the friend I traveled with probably became crazy because of this. I will be called mad and crazy when I announce that I have shaken hands with dear such and many others at the time, and also talked with them. And who would believe me when I say that I have appeared like an angel to some people and told them certain things, which in the course of time got distorted, but still got handed down until nearly 2,000 years later? Ask it, that's just not possible, that I should narrate everything. I would go down as the greatest lunatic of all time in the history of the world. I would even be insulted as the greatest lunatic of the entire universe, and be put under lock and key for life, behind the thickest prison walls. You really cannot demand that from me, that I would do that, because for me that means the same as being a living dead. That is really too much, Askit. That would be madness.
You know very well that many years ago you were designated by a name that would determine the rest of your life, namely, by a lot of suffering and mistakes that are piled up on you. So you already knew then that the rest of your life would be exceptionally hard and difficult, and that you would also have to continue bearing much poverty and hardship. But for the truth's sake, and in spite of your knowledge, you wanted to take everything on yourself and not let your mission down by one iota. However, if you nevertheless feel the urge to release yourself of your task in the previously mentioned respect, then we will not ask you about it any more. We cannot and must not force you, because the truth can never be disseminated by force. Tell me your will, and we will act accordingly. If you do not want to, then none of us will force ourselves into you any further. However, if you also want to serve the cause in this form, then it would please me. But the decision lies with you alone.
Of course. You deliberately just leave such things to me.
Your own will is crucial because you must be able to answer for your own actions or omissions.
I really do not find it easy, Askit. What do you say to that, Simya-se, and what do you think, Nera?
It is an extraordinarily high demand on you, like you also are an extraordinary Earth human, if I may call you that under the present circumstances.
May the devil take it? How should I understand this now? You and Askit, you both probably know a lot more about me than it is the case with Simya-se and hers concerning this, right? But what actually is it?
You will find the solution of the mystery already in due time.
With that, will I have drunk and eaten, and my problem is probably also solved thereby, right?
It certainly is not so, and to be sure neither for you nor for me and the others, and therefore I also cannot make the decision for you. This lies alone in the area of your own decisions.
That is really damn solemn. There is probably no other possibility for me.
You were never a wimp.
Aha, you also know that expression.
Sure, Askit has gone into the heart of the matter.
Then I will walk once again to the gallows. More than hanged I can no longer be. Maybe I will also end up on a funeral pyre, or get quartered, drowned, broken on the wheel, strangled or shot, or who knows what.
Your path and life will be very hard and very difficult, and indeed also in reference to your wife, but everything will probably not be so bad, that you must therefore have excessively bad thoughts.
You easily say that. I will eventually get into the devil's kitchen.
I said already that everything will not be so bad.
I only ask myself what you imagine is absolutely bad and what you don't, but I do not expect an answer to it. You really don't have to tell me.
That spares me from a very long explanation.
I can easily imagine that. But now tell me what I should do.
Your decision is clear and final.
Do not ask for that too.
You are still in possession of all the reports of our contacts from then. Have you kept them like I asked you to? I will transmit these to you via Simya-se, that is to say via her equipment anyway.
I am not a clown and a word breaker. But they all contain many errors that were caused by the rapid transmission and should still be corrected by you or Simya-se.
Of course I understand. Simya-se will assist you in this respect, in conjunction with me. So after the subsequent conversation, which will not be transmitted to you by Simya-se, weave the reports of the contacts of that time into the contact reports of Simya-se Kaish, which you will also have to complete and correct with her for the same reasons.
How do you imagine that to be then? When Simya-se transmits the reports to me by thoughts, these always come so fast and ceaselessly that I can hardly catch my breath. How am I supposed to still have the time to weave the reports from our contacts of those foregone years? And how do you both imagine that to be at all? Should I once again begin a new complex? That is simply too much, because on the one hand I have to write Simya-se's reports, and on the other hand I also spend long hours hammering the long reports from Arhata into the machine. I really don't know how to manage all this. I am not a magician, nor a Superman. I often have to skip words or even whole sentences, or I write wrong concepts if I cannot decipher the transmitted symbols at the moment, because everything always goes so fast, and I am not used to type at this transmission speed.
You complicate things, however, you will have enough time to write down the reports of the contacts and experiences you and Ascot have had together. When, at a later point in time, I transmit to you the report of this trip and you write everything down, I will naturally give you enough time to write down the additional reports of Ascot and yourself. I will then check your work together with you later. In due time, I will also announce myself again if you need my other transmissions. You will put together at a later point all that is discussed by Ascot and you in your contacts when we continue our conversation in confidential mission afterwards. It is also not necessary for you to start a new work. Regarding the messages from Arahat Athersata, my father will make use of the High Council to convey to Arahat Athersata that you need some time and therefore the transmissions should not be continued for the time being. In due time, we will again inform the level otherwise. But now we want to get to the conversation, through which we will initiate you in many secret things, which, however, never, or only much later, may you mention to other persons.
Okay, I will stick to it.
Sure, we all know that.
Now also begins this conversation. Good. I will let myself be surprised.